Chapter 979. Dezong of Goguryu's expression changed drastically because he saw a strange phenomenon on Tang Zheng's face. Black lines snaked up from his neck like little earthworms. They crawled all the way to his cheeks and to the top of his head, making his face look somewhat sinister. This is the ruthless aura of the Lord of the Underworld's power. Dezong of Goguryu's fiery golden eyes immediately recognized it. Tang Zheng absorbed the Lord of the Underworld's power. Not only did he absorb the essence, but he also absorbed the dregs. The Lord of the Underworld lost his nature because he was infected by the ruthless aura of the Yin Qi in the 18 levels of hell. This ruthless aura was transmitted to Tang Zheng, so he might also lose his nature. Dezong of Goguryo was shocked. If Tang Zheng lost his nature, wouldn't the heavenly Tao's decree be useless? Of course, he couldn't sit by and do nothing. He shouted loudly, and when the Buddhist voice entered his ears, it was as if he was enlightened. Tang Zheng's body shook, and he opened his eyes. His eyes flickered with a black aura. Obviously, he was already affected. Tang Zheng, listen to me carefully. You absorbed the Lord of the Underworld's power, and you also took the dregs. If you don't control them, you will lose your nature and become a person like the Lord of the Underworld, who willfully kills the innocent. I will now teach you the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The Ksitigarbha Sutra can suppress this ruthless aura, Dezong of Goguryo said in a deep voice. The Ksitigarbha Sutra. Tang Zheng was shocked. His current situation was indeed not good. His power had risen by 3 levels, but the side effects that came with it were torturous. He realized that he had been too naive. The Lord of the Underworld's power was not that easy to absorb. Just as he was at a loss, Dezong of Goguryo's actions were really timely, and it greatly improved his impression of him. Dezong of Goguryo was not only benevolent, but also generous to help him. He remembered this friendship in his heart. He did not stand on ceremony and immediately nodded to express his thanks. Dezong of Goguryo immediately imparted the Ksitigarbha Sutra to him. He recited a sutra that turned into huge golden Sanskrit characters that flew above Tang Zheng's head. With a flash of golden light, they entered his brain and were deeply imprinted in his mind. Tang Zheng suddenly found that there was an ancient scripture in his mind. Although every word of the scripture was in Sanskrit, he could understand the profound great Tao in it without any difficulty. Subconsciously, he began to chant. Although no golden Sanskrit words flew out of his mouth, the black aura in his eyes gradually dissipated, and his eyes returned to normal. The Ksitigarbha Sutra can help you subdue demons and devils. You need to recite it every day, and you will definitely have a deeper understanding of it, Dezong of Goguryo advised. Tang Zheng had seen the power of the Ksitigarbha Sutra and knew that this was an extremely powerful technique. He sincerely bowed to Dezong of Goguryo to express his gratitude. Dezong of Goguryo slightly nodded and said with gratification, "Your comprehension is excellent. I believe that the Ksitigarbha Sutra will be of great use in your hands." After a pause, Dezong of Goguryo suddenly asked, "What was that technique you used before? It could actually resist the Netherworld King's Netherworld Ghost technique?" Tang Zheng answered truthfully, "This technique is called the Sky Swallowing Technique. I obtained it by accident. Just now, I absorbed the Yama's seal, and the Yama's seal merged with the Sky Swallowing Technique, greatly increasing the power of the Sky Swallowing Technique." This was a situation that Tang Zheng did not expect. After the Yama's seal was sucked into the black hole, it did not disappear without a trace like other things. It actually merged with the black hole. This made Tang Zheng very surprised. It was precisely because of this that his sky-swallowing technique actually leaped, crossing the soul-devouring stage and entering the mountain-moving realm. The so-called mountain-moving realm meant that the sky-swallowing technique was enough to move a large mountain. The attraction of the sky-swallowing technique had increased by many times. However, this power was too great. He had no way to test it and really move a large mountain. Dezong of Goguryo nodded and said, "This is your opportunity. The Yama's seal is the keepsake of the great Yama kings. It is also very important to the ghost realm. Your sky-swallowing technique merged with the Yama's seal. Perhaps there will be unexpected changes in the future. unexpected changes? Tang Zheng opened his eyes wide. Even though Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's understanding of the swallowing the heavens technique was limited, he had fiery eyes of truth. Tang Zhenghao did not doubt his judgment, so when he heard these words, his curiosity was piqued. As for what changes it will be, you will have to slowly experience it yourself in the future. However, I still have a question that has been lingering in my heart. If I don't ask, I will not be able to let it go. Dizang of Goguryeo said again. What doubt? You are clearly a living person. How can you appear in the ghost realm safe and sound and not be affected by the yin qi? The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was probably not the only one who had this question. Song Jiangwang and even the Netherworld King, who had vanished into thin air, also had this question because this was too illogical. Because I have the 9-yang saint body. I am not affected by the yin qi. Tang Zheng still did not hide it. He had a natural trust in Dizang of Goguryeo. He felt that the other party would not harm him. This kind of trust was mysterious and he could not explain it in a short period of time. 9-yang saint body? Dizang of Goguryeo softly muttered these 4 words. I once inadvertently heard of this body. It seems to be a very rare body in the human world. I never thought that I would be able to see it with my own eyes. It is fortunate. After all, the ghost realm and the human world were separated by yin and yang. The human world did not know much about the ghost realm and the ghost realm knew very little about the human world. Very few people in the human world had heard of the 9-yang saint body. Dizang of Goguryeo had actually heard of this body. This was enough to show that he was very knowledgeable. Perhaps this is the reason why the heavens chose you. You are a 1 in a million candidate. Other than you, no one else can come to the ghost realm. It is even more impossible for them to do such an earth-shattering feat, Dizang of Goguryeo sincerely praised. Hearing this, Tang Zheng could not help but blush with shame. He quickly said that he was ashamed. Don't be modest. If it was not for you, perhaps the situation would be completely different. In short, the ghost realm owes you a favor. Dizang of Goguryeo solemnly said. Tang Zheng's heart moved. Since the Dizang of Goguryeo owed him a favor, then could he discuss this mission with him? However, this mission was to protect the Tree of Life. Absorbing the ghost realm's source of energy was a matter that harmed the ghost realm. He did not know how the Dizang of Goguryeo would react. However, when he recalled what he had said about karma, Tang Zheng felt a bit more confident. If it was really according to his karma, then wouldn't it be the ghost realm that took it from the human world? Returning it now was a matter of course. Dizang of Goguryeo faintly glanced at him. Seeing that he did not speak, he guessed his thoughts and said, I already have a general understanding of the purpose of your trip. You have done a favor for the ghost realm, so I will make the decision for you. Tang Zheng was ecstatic. He did not expect the Dizang of Goguryeo to be so broad-minded. But suddenly, the Dizang of Goguryeo changed the topic. You also need to understand that the ghost realm and the human world are 2 interdependent worlds. The annihilation and disappearance of one is a fatal blow to the other. So, although the human world can be upgraded to a big world, it can't be drained and let the ghost realm cut off its vitality. Previously, Tang Zheng listened to the Dizang of Goguryeo's explanation and was enlightened. He understood the importance of the 2 worlds to each other. If the ghost realm disappeared completely, then the ghosts of human beings would have no place to go after death. They would become wandering ghosts in the human world, and there would be no new human reincarnation. In time, human beings would also perish. In the end, the human world could not escape the danger of extinction. Tang Zheng was not a ruthless person. After understanding the stakes, of course, he would not stubbornly want to absorb the source energy of the ghost realm. He nodded in understanding and solemnly promised, Dizang of Goguryeo, please rest assured. I am not an unreasonable person. As long as the human world is restored to a big world, then everything in the past will be forgotten. In fact, after witnessing the strength of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, he gradually understood the strength of the world of spirits and souls. If he persisted in his foolish ways and the 2 worlds fought each other, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious in the end. Since the Dizang of Goguryeo was willing to uphold justice, this was the most favorable situation for him. The Dizang of Goguryeo nodded with relief. I passed on the Ksitigarbha Sutra to you. Perhaps, this is the true purpose of the will of the heavenly Tao. I have a premonition that you will go very far. Thank you for the compliment. For this sentence, Tang Zheng did not feel much. Who knew what would happen in the future? The key was to do everything in front of him well. Roar! Suddenly, a roar interrupted the conversation between the two. The Shura woke up again and was extremely violent. The Dizang of Goguryeo was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he said to Tang Zheng, I put the Vajra demon subduing ring on the Shura. You can recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra without any distractions. See what effect it has? Tang Zheng was quiet in his own world and did not see the scene where the Dizang of Goguryeo dealt with the Shura. Seeing the Shura was so violent and directly rushing towards him, he quickly restrained the panic in his heart. According to the Dizang of Goguryeo's words, he calmed himself down and recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra without any distractions. There were still no golden Sanskrit words flying out of his mouth, but a clear voice floated out and flew to the Shura's side. The Shura's movements suddenly froze, but he did not stop immediately. He only slowed down his pace. The Shura blade fell from the sky and slashed towards Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng saw the blade, but he still did not dodge. Since the Dizang of Goguryeo asked him to focus, then he could not be distracted and continue to recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra. The Shura's movements became slower and slower, but the Shura blade hanging above his head was still very scary. If it was someone else, they would have been scared and hurriedly dodged. However, Tang Zheng was as steady as a rock. This made the Dizang of Goguryeo secretly nod in his heart, secretly praising Tang Zheng's courage. He actually believed his words without any doubt. At that time, the Dizang of Goguryeo was even more fond of Tang Zheng, feeling that he was his fated person. If it were not for him, he was afraid that he would not have become a Buddha so quickly, and the crisis in the world of spirits and souls would not have been solved so smoothly. The Shura blade stopped, almost touching Tang Zheng's hair. Chapter 980. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. He raised his head and stared at the Shura who had calmed down. He was surprised. The Ksitigarbha Sutra actually had such a miraculous effect. Comma. Dizang of Goguryeo looked at him approvingly and explained, the Ksitigarbha Sutra and the Vajra demon subduing ring complement each other. When their effects are superimposed, they can play a huge role in suppressing the Shura and calming him down. Tang Zheng secretly nodded and stared at the Shura who was close at hand. The Shura was no different from an ordinary person. However, instead of eyeballs, there were 2 balls of lightning in his eyes. They were as black as ink and kept jumping. Could it be that every time the Shura goes crazy in the future, I have to chant the Ksitigarbha Sutra to suppress him? Tang Zheng asked curiously. Dizang of Goguryeo nodded. At present, the Shura's strength is very strong and the ruthlessness in his heart is too strong. Therefore, in a very short time, he will break through the imprisonment of the Ksitigarbha Sutra and the Vajra demon subduing ring. We have to be on guard against him at all times. Once we discover that he shows signs of recovery, we have to chant the Ksitigarbha Sutra to suppress him. Tang Zheng suddenly understood and sighed, this is really a troublesome matter. How is it troublesome to save the world? Dizang of Goguryeo said indifferently. Hearing this, Tang Zheng felt ashamed and gave a thumbs up, admirable. Suddenly, Dizang of Goguryeo had an idea. Why don't I keep the Shura by your side and you can convert him at all times? This is also a good thing. What do you think? Keep the Shura by my side? Tang Zheng was shocked. This matter was really beyond his expectations. Compared to the Shura, the difference between his cultivation and the Shura was like heaven and earth. Wasn't this nonsense? Dizang of Goguryeo's expression was calm as he looked at Tang Zheng without blinking. He was actually serious. Dizang of Goguryeo's action had a deep meaning. This was because once Azura was by Tang Zheng's side, he would have to chant the Ksitigarbha Sutra to Azura from time to time to suppress him. In time, Tang Zheng's understanding of the Ksitigarbha Sutra would definitely be extraordinary. Dizang of Goguryeo had great confidence in the Ksitigarbha Sutra that he had comprehended. He believed that once Tang Zheng recited the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day and felt the profound dharma in it, then Tang Zheng would definitely be like him, becoming a compassionate person who would help others. This was the quality that Dizang of Goguryeo valued the most. Therefore, he had really put in a lot of effort for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng didn't know the reason, but he was shocked by Dizang of Goguryeo's suggestion. He asked blankly, "Dizang of Goguryeo, the Shura's strength is too strong. If you keep him by my side, isn't it like keeping a tiger or wolf by a sheep's side?" He was really too afraid of the Shura. This guy was a killing machine. If one day he couldn't suppress the Shura, then wouldn't he be in danger of being cut into pieces by the Shura? Dizang of Goguryeo laughed and explained, "You don't have to worry. The Ksitigarbha Sutra has an undeniable effect on the Shura. Once you become more proficient in the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it will become easier to suppress him. You succeeded the first time, so it's impossible for you to fail in the future. You don't have to be afraid." Seeing Dizang of Goguryeo make such a solemn vow, Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is this really necessary? Dizang of Goguryeo nodded. "I have too many things to do next, so it's impossible for me to take care of him all the time. If I'm careless, it'll be too bad for him to be seriously affected. Tang Zheng, do you think I have the time?" Looking at the statue-like Shura in front of him, Tang Zheng couldn't refuse, so he simply made up his mind. "Since you want to give him to me, if I keep refusing, wouldn't I become a joke? Okay, I promise you, I'll keep him. However, to be on the safe side, I can't keep him alive by my side. I'll put him into Sumer world." Tang Zheng compromised. Dizang of Goguryeo didn't care. As long as Tang Zheng kept him, then he had to suppress him. Naturally, he would need to recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra often. Over time, Tang Zheng's familiarity and recognition of the Ksitigarbha Sutra would be extraordinary. Dizang of Goguryeo revealed an unfathomable smile as if relieved of a heavy burden. "Do as you wish, as long as you keep him." Tang Zheng waved his hand, and a ball of light burst out from his wrist. The Shura disappeared and was put into Sumer world. Good magic treasure. Dizang of Goguryeo praised sincerely. A magic treasure that could store the Shura was definitely not simple. It was definitely a heaven-grade magic treasure. Tang Zheng seemed to be an ordinary person, but in fact, he had many unexpected magical powers and magic treasures. Although you've taken the Shura, you have to remember my advice. If you don't suppress him in time, then he may break through your storage magic treasure. At that time, you won't be able to guard against it. Dizang of Goguryeo instructed. Understood, please rest assured. Once the Shura makes the slightest move, I'll use the Ksitigarbha Sutra to suppress him. I won't let him harm the world. Tang Zheng patted his chest confidently. Dizang of Goguryeo nodded with gratification. His eyes looked into the distance and said, "This battle is huge. I'm afraid that after the ghost world was affected, it's already in chaos. Let's go out first." Since Dizang of Goguryeo made the decision, then Tang Zheng didn't have to worry about the other kings of hell. He didn't have to worry about the lords of hell agreeing. Dizang of Goguryeo's steps were like lotuses. Every step he took seemed to be a step, but the distance was very far. His speed was extremely fast. Tang Zheng stepped on the War Soul sword and flew with the Imperial sword. He and Dizang of Goguryeo flew into the distance. Looking down from the sky, the 9 Serenities Hell seemed to have experienced a nuclear explosion. It was a mess. Dizang of Goguryeo suddenly sighed faintly. Although the 9 Serenities Hell no longer exists, the price we paid this time is quite high. Without destruction, there can be no construction. You don't have to care too much about it. Tang Zheng advised. All of this is the cycle of cause and effect. Dizang of Goguryeo shook his head. If the ghost world didn't absorb the origin energy of the human world, there wouldn't be the 18 levels of hell. The 9 Serenities Hell would still be a paradise suitable for cultivation. Naturally, there wouldn't be this scene now. Tang Zheng sighed inwardly. Perhaps the 10 kings of hell never dreamed that there would be such a day. This might really be the cycle of cause and effect. Hey, look over there. Suddenly, Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise as he pointed at the ruins below. Chakra City. Dizang of Goguryeo glanced and blurted out. Tang Zheng frowned. The last time he came to the ghost world, the first city he arrived at was Chakra City. It was from here that he arrived at Fengdu City through the teleportation array. Looking at the ruins now, he couldn't help but sigh. It's a sin, a sin. Dizang of Goguryeo put his palms together and lowered his head. He chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra. One by one, the Sanskrit scriptures flew towards the ruins to expiate the souls of the dead. Wherever they passed, it became peaceful. Countless souls were sacrificed in Chakra City. All of this was indirectly related to Dizang of Goguryeo. One could imagine how heavy his heart was. Since Chakra City has been destroyed, let's go directly to Fengdu City. Dizang of Goguryeo finished expiating the souls of the dead. The ghost world is vast. If we fly like this, we don't know how long it will take to reach Fengdu City. Tang Zheng was worried. Dizang of Goguryeo smiled. Of course we will go to Fengdu City through the teleportation array. Teleportation array? Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked at the ruins below. He couldn't see the original appearance at all. The teleportation array was long gone. How could it be teleported to Fengdu City? The teleportation array has been destroyed. Most of the teleportation array has been destroyed, but it can be rearranged. Ksitigarbha waved his arm downwards, and the originally scattered ruins began to move. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere, revealing the huge square floor. The ruins in all directions were actually combined together by a strange force. After a while, Tang Zheng discovered that there was a square below. It was exactly the same as the teleportation array square he saw before. The ruins were gone. Realization dawned upon him, and he realized that he had been too foolish to have thought of this. However, when he saw this teleportation array, he became excited. If he knew this kind of teleportation array, he could easily come and go as he wished if he could set up a teleportation array between the mainland and the island in the future. Wouldn't that solve many of his problems? The family was happy and harmonious. This was definitely a good thing for his grandfather. At this point, he no longer cared about being reserved and asked directly, Dizang of Goguryeo, may I ask if you can teach me the method of setting up the teleportation array? Of course, this is not a difficult spell. With your talent, you can learn it in a short time. Dizang of Goguryeo explained the various methods of setting up the teleportation array to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng memorized each and every one of them and compared them to the teleportation array below. Soon, he understood most of it. Let's go. Dizang of Goguryeo activated the teleportation array. With a flash of light, he disappeared. After they disappeared, the Cakravarti king flew over from afar. He was stunned and muttered to himself, Dizang of Goguryeo has left the 9 serenities hell and reappeared in the world of spirits and souls. He subconsciously recalled Dizang of Goguryeo's demeanor and methods. To his despair, he realized that Dizang of Goguryeo's skills had improved by leaps and bounds. The world of spirits and souls will no longer have peace. I am now a loner. The other kings of hell must be waiting to see me make a fool of myself. Now that Dizang of Goguryeo has reappeared in the world of spirits and souls, let's see if they still have the time to laugh at me. He could not help but feel lucky. If it was not for Dizang of Goguryeo, he would have been the target of ridicule for a long time. The Cakravarti king thought about it and recalled the person beside Dizang of Goguryeo. Strange, this was a living person. He had seen a living person before, but that person had fallen into the river Styx and his soul had long dissipated. However, the Cakravarti king still remembered the magical equipment used by that person, especially that set of bow and arrows. The king of hell had only obtained 1 arrow and kept it like a treasure. No one could take a second look at it. The Cakravarti king wished that he could have such a magical equipment. That way, his combat power would definitely soar. Why would Dizang of Goguryeo be with a living person? There must be something fishy. The Chakravarti king's eyes turned solemn. He squinted his eyes like a sly old fox. They must have left in such a hurry. Something big must have happened. If I don't catch up with them, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Chapter 981. In Fengdu City, the teleportation array suddenly lit up. With a flash, two figures appeared out of thin air, Tang Zheng and Dizang of Goguryeo. 97 The two of them did not disguise themselves. When they appeared, they immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding ghost messengers. They shouted, "Who are you?" Tang Zheng's life force was too strong. They were attracted by him at first glance. Dizang of Goguryeo's aura was even more unforgettable. In short, this combination was too eye-catching. They were immediately surrounded by a large number of ghost messengers. The two of them did not take their hostility seriously. Dizang of Goguryeo said casually, "Take me to see King Yama." "How dare you? Is King Yama someone you can meet just because you want to?" The ghost messengers shouted. They did not know Dizang of Goguryeo. Dizang of Goguryeo was not angry. He looked at Tang Zheng and said calmly, "Let's go there ourselves." "Okay." Tang Zheng nodded and agreed. He and Dizang of Goguryeo walked out. "Stop!" The ghost messengers shouted angrily. But to the two of them, these angry shouts were like the crying of a baby. They were not threatening at all. A majestic force quietly spread out from Dizang of Goguryeo. The ghost messengers retreated to both sides like the tide. They watched as the two of them walked past them and strode toward King Yama's hall. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared. But it caused an uproar among the ghost messengers. The news of the intruders spread like wildfire. King Yama had just returned to his palace. Before he could sit down, he heard a subordinate report that there were intruders. He stood up in shock. This was too much. They actually dared to cause trouble in his territory. Did they not put him, the lord of the ghost realm, in their eyes? However, he was also a little anxious. Who could the intruders be? Could it be guests from the 9 Serenities Hell? The 9 Serenities Hell erupted with such a huge battle. Who exactly was fighting whom? One question after another jumped around in the Yama King's heart, giving him a headache. All of a sudden, a commotion rang out from outside the palace. The Yama King's heart trembled. He understood that the intruders must have barged in. So many of his guards actually failed to stop them. Only after they barged into the palace did they cause such a huge commotion. From this, one could see how powerful these intruders were. He walked to the door and happened to meet two intruders. Instantly, their eyes met. King Yenluo's eyes narrowed as he exclaimed, "Dizang of Goguryeo, why are you here?" Dizang of Goguryeo clasped his hands together. "King Yenluo, we meet again after so many years. You. How did you leave the 9 Serenities Hell? Didn't you make a heavy oath?" Dizang of Goguryeo asked in shock. "Until hell is empty, I vow not to become a Buddha. Now that hell is empty, I naturally came out." Hell is empty? How is that possible? King Yenluo was very clear about the situation in the 9 Serenities Hell. There were as many vengeful spirits as there were hairs on an ox. How could they be completely converted so quickly? King Yenluo didn't believe it at all. He coldly snorted, "Dizang of Goguryeo, you went back on your words and violated the oath you made." Seeing King Yenluo being so aggressive, Tang Jing couldn't help but interject, "King Yenluo, on what basis are you accusing Dizang of Goguryeo of going back on his words?" "Let me tell you, he is telling the truth." In the ghost realm, except for Dizang of Goguryeo and the other kings of hell, no one dared to speak to King Yenluo like this. King Yenluo raised his thick eyebrows and flew into a rage. "Who are you? How dare you shout in front of me?" "Huh?" Suddenly, King Yenluo saw Tang Jing clearly and was shocked. "You are a human. How did another human come out of the ghost realm?" He had truly become a frightened bird. Back then, that human had caused him to lose a lot of face and caused a storm. That was why he had such a big reaction to the appearance of a living person in the ghost realm. King Yenluo, don't you remember me? We meet again. With Dizong of Goguryeo by his side, Tang Jing directly revealed his identity. King Yenluo was stunned for a moment. He stared straight at Tang Jing, then suddenly reacted and shouted, "It's you. It's actually you, you didn't die? How is this possible? You fell into the river Styx, how could you not die?" This time, King Yenluo was truly frightened, because this had completely overturned his worldview. Even if he fell into the river Styx himself, he wouldn't be able to survive. This living person was actually able to escape from death, this. He could no longer find the words to describe it. You know each other? Dizong of Goguryeo asked curiously. Not long ago, I met King Yenluo once. I left one of my magic treasures with him. I believe King Yenluo should have kept it. Now, it should be returned to its rightful owner. Tang Jing revealed his identity in order to retrieve the shooting sun arrow that he had lost. Once he retrieved this shooting sun arrow, he would have collected 9 shooting sun arrows, which could be considered as fulfilling one of his wishes. King Yenluo's heart tightened, and said, "Nonsense, why would I want your thing? It must have been lost in some corner long ago." In fact, King Yenluo had already studied the shooting sun arrow and understood that it was a rare magic treasure. He had always kept it in his heart. How could he return it to its rightful owner? Seeing his intense reaction, Tang Jing was instead certain that the shooting sun arrow must be in his hands, so he said, "King Yenluo, as the head of the 10 kings of hell, your lying ability is not very good, far worse than King Songjiang." "You have met King Songjiang?" "Yes, King Songjiang went to the 9 Serenities Hell, so he must have met you." "Is he plotting some scheme again?" King Yenluo asked as if he was facing a great enemy. "I don't know what King Songjiang is thinking, I only want my shooting sun arrow back." "Humph, what if I don't give it to you?" Since his thoughts were seen through, King Yenluo no longer denied it and instead arrogantly asked. Back then, he was able to force Tang Jing to jump into the river Styx, so he was still confident that he could deal with him now. Moreover, he wouldn't let him escape so easily. Tang Jing didn't say anything, but Dizong of Goguryeo had already taken the initiative. "King Yenluo, you are the head of the 10 kings of hell. What is the meaning of bullying a junior?" King Yenluo's heart trembled, and said, "Dizong of Goguryeo, could it be that you want to stand up for him? He is a human." "So what if he is a human? All living beings are equal." "Dizong of Goguryeo, this is Fengdu City, the Yama Palace. If you want to stand up for a human, aren't you looking down on my Fengdu City too much?" King Yenluo suppressed his anger and berated. Dizong of Goguryeo was unmoved, and said indifferently, "What we want is not just a magic treasure. This time, we specially came to find you for the Tree of Life." "Tree of Life? You actually want to become enemies with the entire ghost realm for a human?" King Yenluo came to a realization and immediately flew into a rage. "The cycle of karma. What you took from the human world back then, it is time to return today." "Nonsense, there is no reason to return something that has fallen into my hands." "Is that so? Since that is the case, then we can only take it ourselves." Dizong of Goguryeo was very clear that Tang Jing was not a match for King Yenluo, so he took the initiative to attack. The subduing devil staff flashed and struck towards King Yenluo. King Yenluo roared and took out the Yama seal. With a bang, King Yenluo flew back and crashed into the wall of the main hall, leaving a dent in the wall. "King Yenluo, don't be stubborn," Dizong of Goguryeo advised. King Yenluo's heart beat wildly. In these years, his strength had improved a lot, but he was not a match for the Dizong of Goguryeo. However, he was not prepared to admit defeat. With a roar, the Yama seal expanded and broke through the main hall. Like a mountain, it pressed towards the Dizong of Goguryeo. Dizong of Goguryeo shook his head. "Stubborn, you are asking for humiliation." The subduing devil staff lightly waved upwards and blocked the Yama seal. The mountain-like Yama seal could no longer descend. No matter how King Yenluo urged his strength, the Yama seal did not move at all. Instead, it flashed and quickly shrunk. King Yenluo turned pale with fright. He wanted to take back the Yama seal, but he found that a large hand had already grasped the Yama seal firmly in the palm of his hand. The Yama seal fell into the hands of the Dizang of Goguryeo. King Yenluo's eyes were about to split open, but there was nothing he could do. He felt a deep sense of powerlessness. He glared at the Dizang of Goguryeo and Tang Zheng with resentment, gnashing his teeth. Dizang of Goguryeo, you are helping outsiders. This is making the entire ghost realm your enemy. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because your cultivation is high. Dizang of Goguryeo shook his head. I have never bullied others with strength. As for Tang Zheng's request, it is a reasonable request. Humans and the ghost realm rely on each other for survival. Why must we fight to the death? Since ancient times, the two worlds have been living in harmony. Ever since you guys absorbed the energy of the human world, the ghost realm has been in trouble. Even the 9 underworlds has been turned from a holy land of cultivation to hell. This is the punishment of the heavenly Tao. Don't you know? Don't talk about these nonsensical things. I will not be bewitched by you. King Yenluo stubbornly stretched his neck. Suddenly, his eyes lit up when he saw someone walking in from outside the palace. He was overjoyed and shouted, Chakravarti King, you are here. Let's work together to take down the Dizang of Goguryeo. We will make sure that this traitor of the ghost realm has no place to stay. Chakravarti King's expression was very ugly. He had seen the battle just now and knew that even if he joined forces, they might not be a match for the Dizang of Goguryeo. Moreover, if he did this, he would be paving the way for King Yenluo. There was no benefit for him. He had already become a loner. Even his city and people no longer existed. He could not help but feel disheartened. Seeing that Chakravarti King was indifferent, King Yenluo was furious. Chakravarti King, are you also going to collude with the Dizang of Goguryeo and betray the ghost realm? King Yenluo, you keep saying that you have betrayed the ghost realm. In fact, you are the sinner of the ghost realm. If you had not agreed to King Songjiang's idea to absorb the energy of the human world, this would not have happened. Put down the butcher's knife. Everything is over. Dizang of Goguryeo advised. Put down the butcher's knife? Why should I put it down? Dizang of Goguryeo, even if I die, don't think that I will listen to you. King Yenluo laughed maniacally. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At this moment, a few figures suddenly flew in from outside the palace. They were the remaining 8 kings of hell. King Yenluo's eyes lit up as he was overjoyed. Dizang of Goguryeo, you should be the one listening to me now. You are already surrounded. Let's see how you are going to act arrogantly. Chapter 982. The 10 kings of hell blocked the entrance of the main hall, surrounding Dizang of Goguryeo and Tang Zheng. However, after hearing King Yenluo's words, the other kings of hell didn't react with righteous indignation. Instead, they looked at Dizang of Goguryeo and Tang Zheng apprehensively, their eyes filled with thought-provoking expressions. Especially Dizang of Goguryeo, who attracted most of the attention. It turned out that Song Jiangwang had already been caught by the other kings of hell outside and asked clearly. Regarding what happened in the 9 Serenities hell, these kings of hell already had a rough understanding of it. They couldn't help but be deeply shocked by Dizang of Goguryeo's strength. At the same time, a deep sense of powerlessness was born, so naturally, they didn't dare to act rashly. Now that they saw King Yenluo unable to resist Dizang of Goguryeo, they were flustered and exasperated. How could they still listen to King Yenluo's instigation and become enemies with Dizang of Goguryeo? Seeing that everyone was indifferent, King Yenluo was stunned for a moment, then flew into a rage. What are you all doing? Dizang of Goguryeo betrayed the ghost realm and colluded with this human. The evidence is conclusive, we must get rid of him as soon as possible. Song Jiangwang stood out and said, King Yenluo, back then you instigated everyone to become enemies with Dizang of Goguryeo and trapped Dizang of Goguryeo in the 9 Serenities hell. Now you're still bewitching people like this, do you think everyone will still listen to your bewitchment? Song Jianguang had already thought it through very clearly. Even if he joined forces with the 10 kings of hell, he might not be a match for Dizang of Goguryeo. Therefore, it was better not to stubbornly persist in going down the wrong path and become enemies with Dizang of Goguryeo. His current plan was to win the favor of Dizang of Goguryeo and take advantage of the fact that King Yanluo was still in the dark to ruthlessly suppress him and weaken his prestige. As for Dizang of Goguryeo's objective, Song Jianguang was still unclear. However, he had already made up his mind to stand firmly on King Yanluo's side. Hearing Song Jianguang's words, King Yama's eyes widened in disbelief. Although the two of them had fought openly and secretly in the past, Song Jianguang still didn't dare to confront him so recklessly. Could it be that Song Jianguang had also colluded with Dizang of Goguryeo? King Yama was shocked by this judgment. Song Jianguang was already a huge threat to him. Now that he had a strong ally like King Yanluo, he was no longer a match for them. No wonder Song Jianguang was so fearless. King Yama thought that he had instantly understood the cause and effect, and his expression was extremely ugly. Do you all listen to Song Jianguang? Seeing that the other kings of hell didn't say a word, King Yama asked indignantly. A few kings of hell who were familiar with King Yama hesitated for a moment before advising, King Yama, don't be angry. This matter needs further consideration. How could Dizang of Goguryeo betray the ghost realm, don't you think so? King Yama didn't buy this kind of behavior. Instead, he was furious. These guys usually flattered him, but at this critical moment, they actually dropped the ball. This was a blatant betrayal. As the head of the 10 kings of hell, King Yama usually kept his word. Other than Song Jianguang, who occasionally challenged his dignity, no one else dared to. Now, these kings of hell actually obeyed him. How could he not be angry? You guys are doing this on purpose, right? Good, very good. This is Fengdu City's Yama Palace, my territory. I have the final say. You guys want to take advantage of your numbers to deal with me? You guys are too naive. King Yama had already lost his mind. Song Jianguang's lips curled into a smug smile. King Yama's thoughts and shrewdness were not as deep as his. After being provoked and squeezed, he was finally about to explode. King Yama roared and launched an attack. However, he didn't attack Dizang of Goguryeo. Instead, he attacked Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was the root of all the problems. Moreover, he had let him escape last time, causing King Yama to lose face. Therefore, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill Tang Zheng. No one expected that he would sneak attack Tang Zheng as King Yama. Even the Dizang of Goguryeo and Tang Zheng didn't expect this. Seeing King Yama's attack in front of him, Tang Zheng finally reacted as if he had woken up from a dream. Looking at the opponent's attack that was sure to succeed, Tang Zheng understood that with his strength, if he fought against it, only death would await him. Most likely, even the Dizang of Goguryeo wouldn't be able to save him. However, he didn't sit still and wait for death. Instead, a meaningful smile appeared on his face. With a thought, a figure appeared in front of him, blocking King Yama's attack. Bang! King Yama struck his opponent. However, his opponent only staggered a few steps back. He didn't fall, nor did he suffer any serious injuries. Instead, as if enraged, he roared toward the sky. A large saber descended from the sky, fiercely slashing towards King Yama. This disruptor was naturally the Azura. Tang Zheng knew that he wouldn't be able to block King Yama's attack. Coincidentally, he sensed that the Azura in Sumeru World was about to break through the suppression. Thus, he directly released Sumeru World, blocking King Yama's attack. The Azura had an undying body. Although King Yama's attack was very fierce, it couldn't kill him. Instead, it completely enraged him. Hua! The Azura's saber was extremely ferocious. With a single slash, it severed one of King Yama's arms. Even King Yama himself didn't have time to react. This was because the Azura's attack was too fierce and sharp. The other kings of hell were also shocked by this scene. In the blink of an eye, King Yama had lost an arm. This was too inconceivable. Who was this guy? How could he have such powerful battle prowess? He was clearly summoned by that human. How could this human have such a mystical power? In fact, even Song Jiangwang's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. This was because when he left, the Netherworld King hadn't summoned the Azura yet. Thus, he didn't recognize the Azura. However, when he saw the Azura's attack just now, Song Jiangwang already knew how powerful it was. More importantly, where did Tang Jing find such a powerful ally? During the previous battle, why didn't Tang Jing summon such a powerful ally? One question after another circled in Song Jiangwang's mind, causing him to be at a loss. Dizang of Goguryeo initially wanted to stop him, but he stopped at the last moment. Without a doubt, Tang Jing's ability to adapt to the situation was at the peak of perfection. If he hadn't summoned the Azura, then even if he resisted, he would definitely have suffered a great loss. However, now that he was unscathed, he resolved this crisis. This courage and adaptability made Dizang of Goguryeo praise him endlessly. Everyone was attracted by the battle between the Azura and King Yama. No one dared to interfere. In fact, they didn't even dare to breathe too heavily, afraid that they would miss the exciting part. King Yama sucked in a breath of cold air as he cursed angrily, "What the hell is this?" "Azura," Tang Jing said softly. However, these two words were like a clap of thunder that exploded among the kings of hell. Azuras were legendary existences. Who would have thought that they would be controlled by a mere human? The shock and horror in their hearts was unimaginable. Dizang of Goguryeo also guessed everyone's thoughts, but he didn't point out the origin of the Azura. Tang Jing didn't care about what the others were thinking. He only paid attention to the Azura. After seeing that he didn't stop after cutting off King Yama's arm, he chased after him. The Azura blade directly slashed towards King Yama's head, as if he wanted to split him in half. King Yama couldn't care less about the pain and the monstrous anger in his heart. He took advantage of the momentum and rolled, miserably dodging the attack. Bang! The Azura blade slashed the floor, and a crack spread in all directions. A huge ravine appeared in the Yama Palace. Merely a single strike possessed such might, and it caused the hearts of the other kings of hell to tremble like cicadas in winter. They subconsciously switched places with the king of hell, and they couldn't help but notice with sorrow that they were probably unable to dodge that strike from before and were directly slashed into two. This conclusion made them feel a deep sense of helplessness, but they still stared at the Azura with wide eyes, wanting to know more about him. King Yama fled in a sorry state like a stray dog. From left to right, from bottom to top, there was no place to hide in this huge palace, and there was no safe place to protect him. He was completely exposed to the Azura's pursuit. "King Yama, now do you agree to return my shooting sun arrows to me?" Tang Jing calmly asked. No. King Yanluo gasped for breath and said. Tang Jing didn't mind. He faintly smiled and said, "Fine, I'm not in a hurry. However, if you die later, then don't blame me for not warning you." King Yama gnashed his teeth in hatred, but he couldn't do anything about Tang Jing's words. He really couldn't understand why the Azura would listen to the words of a human. However, he didn't know that if he hadn't attacked the Azura earlier, the Azura's attention would have been attracted by others and he wouldn't have been chasing after him like this. King Yama almost died under the Azura's blade several times. Although he was lucky enough to survive, there were many more wounds on his body. It was a ghastly sight. The hearts of the other kings of hell trembled as they saw this. They directly listed Tang Jing as one of the most dangerous people. Later on, if Tang Jing had any requests, as long as it didn't endanger their lives, they shouldn't act recklessly. Otherwise, the King Yama's fate would be a lesson for them. Tang Jing didn't know that his unintentional action had such an effect. He stared at King Yama without blinking. Suddenly, the blade flashed and one of King Yama's legs flew up. The Azura's attack was fast, accurate, and directly removed the leg. King Yama immediately staggered and fell to the ground, unable to escape the Asura's attack. Whoosh! The Asura's blade came crashing down, as if it wanted to chop off King Yama's head. King Yama screamed in fright. Facing death, he finally couldn't maintain his calm and dignity. His reaction was similar to that of an ordinary person. Suddenly, the sound of chanting scriptures rang in his ears. The Asura's blade actually stopped above his head, as if his head wouldn't be saved if it went any lower. King Yama raised his head in shock. He looked at the Asura's blade that was inches away from him and then looked at the Asura's face that gradually turned from malevolent to calm. A storm rose in his heart. Even in his dreams, he couldn't figure out what was going on. Chapter 983. The other kings of hell were also shocked by this unforeseen event. They all stared at Tang Zheng with their eyes wide open. A human being was actually able to control such a terrifying existence like the Asura. This was truly a fantasy, but the scene in front of them was so real that they couldn't deny it. Immediately, their gazes towards Tang Zheng became very complicated. The raging waves in their hearts couldn't be calmed down for a long time. After Tang Zheng finished reciting the Ksitigarbha Sutra, the Asura completely quieted down. With a wave of Tang Zheng's hand, the Asura disappeared without a trace. Then, he walked in front of King Yenluo, looked down at him and said, "Are you going to make a meaningless resistance?" King Yenluo shook his head like a stray dog. "Give me back my sun shooting arrows," Tang Zheng shouted. King Yenluo completely lost his temper. He submissively handed over the sun shooting arrows with both hands. Looking at the last sun shooting arrow, Tang Zheng's gaze became excited. He took the sun shooting arrow and with a thought, stored it in Sumer world. Finally, the corner of his mouth revealed a smile. He looked at King Yenluo in ridicule and said, "If you had handed it over earlier, wouldn't it have been better? Why did you have to cause so much trouble?" King Yenluo was so angry that he almost vomited blood, but he didn't dare to say anything. He lowered his head deeply. This time, he really lost face. He lost an arm and a leg. His strength would definitely be greatly reduced. Even if he didn't die, what awaited him in the future wouldn't be a bright future. The other kings of hell looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes, guessing what he would do next. Unexpectedly, Tang Zheng took a step back and didn't continue to be aggressive. Huh! Everyone was incomparably surprised. They didn't expect him to actually retreat. Dizang of Goguryeo said, "King Yenluo, now that you are seriously injured, if you persist in going about things the wrong way, I'm afraid the consequences will be even more serious." King Yenluo had already completely lost his fighting spirit. He understood that the ghost realm was probably going to change. He weakly said, "Dizang of Goguryeo, whatever you say, it will be so." Dizang of Goguryeo slightly nodded. "All right, then I announce that the battle between the human world and the ghost realm will end here." From then on, the two realms were at peace. As for the matter of the tree of life absorbing the source energy of the ghost realm, this is something that the ghost realm did to the humans many years ago. Now, it is the cycle of cause and effect, so you don't have to worry too much about it. The human world will return to the big world, and our ghost realm will not perish because of becoming a small world. This is the promise that I, Dizang of Goguryeo, give to everyone. None of the other Yama kings were convinced by Qin Ye's decisiveness, but there was nothing they could do to refute him. Song Jiangwang was the first to agree. Dizang of Goguryeo is right. I support him unconditionally. King Yama looked at Song Jiangwang with disdain. The other kings of hell also nodded in agreement, and the King Yenluo could only dejectedly agree. Looking at this scene, Tang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief. This was already an excellent result. He didn't dare to ask for more. He looked at Dizang of Goguryeo gratefully. Dizang of Goguryeo nodded at him without batting an eyelid and said, "Tang Zheng, are you satisfied with this result?" Dizang of Goguryeo actually asked for Tang Zheng's opinion. This made the other kings of hell's expressions become even more interesting. Tang Zheng's weight subconsciously increased in their hearts. Everything will be as Dizang of Goguryeo says. Tang Zheng said respectfully. Dizang of Goguryeo nodded in approval. Since that is the case, then everything is settled. Even so, the hearts of the other Yama kings did not relax. This was especially so for the Yama king. He looked at the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with a pitiful expression. As long as the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gave the word, his life and death would be decided. Tang Zheng, King Yenluo committed a crime in the past, but now his arms and legs are all damaged. How do you think we should deal with him? Dizang of Goguryeo asked. Tang Zheng was stunned. He didn't expect the Dizang of Goguryeo to ask him how to deal with King Yenluo. He looked deeply at King Yenluo and fell into deep thought. The other kings of Hell's hearts were in suspense. They all guessed that King Yenluo wouldn't be able to escape death. Even King Yenluo himself turned pale and trembled. After a long time, Tang Zheng said, "Humans are not saints. How can they not make mistakes? King Yenluo is the same. I think he should have a chance to turn over a new leaf." These words were like coming back from the jaws of death. The haze in King Yenluo's heart was swept away. He couldn't help but look at Tang Zheng with tears of gratitude. Although King Yenluo had a lot of grievances in his heart, at this moment, he was sincerely grateful to Tang Zheng. King Yenluo was very clear about the other kings of Hell's thoughts. The kings of Hell were always fighting openly and secretly. They couldn't wait for their opponents to fall. King Yenluo was the first to bear the brunt and became the target of the others. In addition, he was seriously injured. It was difficult for him to maintain his position as the leader of the 10 kings of Hell. Tang Zheng could have taken his life, but in the end, he let him go. This caused King Yenluo to have mixed feelings. In fact, Tang Zheng's thoughts were very simple. It was impossible to kill all the 10 kings of Hell. Song Jiangwang had many tricks up his sleeve. If he killed King Yenluo, Song Jiangwang's strength would definitely increase. This was definitely not something that Tang Zheng wanted to see. By leaving King Yenluo, he could restrain Song Jiangwang. Moreover, if he left a rift in the ghost world would be too busy to fend for themselves. This way, even without the Dizang of Goguryeo, the human world would be much more peaceful. The others didn't know what he was thinking. They all raised their thumbs and praised Tang Zheng's kindness. Dizang of Goguryeo also nodded secretly. He deliberately threw this question to Tang Zheng with the intention of testing him. Tang Zheng's answer satisfied him. This was the kind of person who cultivated the Ksitigarbha Sutra. He was merciful. He didn't make the wrong choice. The other kings of Hell felt that it was a pity, especially Song Jiangwang. Leaving a future threat like King Yenluo was definitely not a good thing for him. Why was this person so soft-hearted? He actually didn't kill King Yenluo directly. However, Song Jiangwang didn't dare to say these thoughts. He could only sigh secretly and secretly plan in his heart. King Yenluo's strength was bound to plummet. He should seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and sit on the throne of the 10 kings of Hell. King Yenluo felt as if he had been pardoned. He said gratefully, "Thank you for not killing me. I was blinded by all the things in the past. I will definitely turn over a new leaf in the future." Tang Zheng nodded lightly. Since he had achieved his goal, he didn't want to stay any longer. He was afraid that his family would worry about his safety. "I'll send you off," Dizang of Goguryeo said. The other kings of Hell also wanted to send him off. They wanted to build a good relationship with Tang Zheng. They also wanted to find out the true relationship between him and the Dizang of Goguryeo. There was no doubt that due to the existence of the Dizang of Goguryeo, Tang Zheng could almost do whatever he wanted in the ghost realm. No one dared to provoke him. The 10 kings of Hell firmly remembered Tang Zheng's appearance. When they returned, they were bound to remind their subordinates that if they met this person in the future, they must be respectful and respectful. It was best to keep a respectful distance and not offend him in the slightest. On the city wall of Fengdu City, the cold wind whistled. Tang Zheng and the Dizang of Goguryeo stood on the city wall and looked down at the sticks below. The kings of hell stood in the distance. They wanted to hear the conversation between the two, but they couldn't hear a single word. Looking at the sticks below, Tang Jing subconsciously thought of the time when he fell down and almost lost his life here. He couldn't help but sigh. The Styx River is a fierce river for both ghosts and humans. Fengdu's city was built on the banks of the Styx River. King Yama really has absolute courage and boldness. Dizang of Goguryeo said to himself, not without appreciation. Tang Jing nodded secretly and said, just now, I acted on my own initiative and let King Yama live. I wonder what advice Dizang of Goguryeo has for me. Dizang of Goguryeo laughed loudly, you did well. Everyone makes mistakes. This saying of the human world is also applicable to the ghost realm. Back then, King Yama did make a mistake, but he also contributed to the ghost realm all these years. Moreover, if King Yama dies, the ghost realm will be in chaos. This is not a scene I want to see. Dizang of Goguryeo had deep feelings for the ghost realm, so these words came from the bottom of his heart. Tang Jing understood and secretly rejoiced at the wisdom of his choice. If he had stubbornly declared that King Yama was sentenced to death, then he would have offended Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Now that Dizang of Goguryeo was his most powerful helper in the ghost realm, he couldn't afford to offend him. Moreover, Dizang of Goguryeo had done him a favor. If it wasn't for Dizang of Goguryeo, his trip wouldn't have been so smooth. Even if he had painstakingly found out about the 10 Kings of Hell's plan for the Tree of Life, it was only treating the symptoms but not the root cause. Only by dealing with it could the Tree of Life avoid a catastrophe. Now that Dizang of Goguryeo had made the final decision and directly cut off the 10 Kings of Hell's improper thoughts for the Tree of Life, he didn't have to worry about the safety of the Tree of Life. He only had to wait until the human world was upgraded to a big world and stop the corresponding array, then everything would be fine. In the future, the ghost realm will be more prosperous when you control it. Tang Jing said sincerely. A world with an absolute powerhouse leading it could erupt with more power than the 10 Kings of Hell who were in a state of disunity. Dizang of Goguryeo didn't seem to be happy. Instead, he sighed and said, the situation in the ghost realm is very complicated. It's not as simple as you think. Back then, when he promoted equality for all living beings, he was opposed by all the kings of hell. Although his cultivation was high, he didn't become a Buddha after all, so he was restrained everywhere. He also understood how difficult it was to promote his own ideas. Even though his cultivation had improved to a higher level and he had become a Buddha on the spot, he was not blindly optimistic. The 10 Kings of Hell didn't seem to dare to oppose him, but when it really touched their fundamental interests, they would never resign themselves to it. However, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was not discouraged. He was very persistent in his beliefs. He turned his head and put away all the complicated thoughts. He said, you don't have to worry about me. This is the path I chose. I will walk it with determination. I believe that one day, all living things in the ghost realm will be equal. It will be peaceful and peaceful. It will not be the foul world we are in now. Seeing his persistence, Tang Jing nodded in admiration, then I look forward to the arrival of that day. I'll take my leave now. Welcome to the ghost realm when you have time. In this big ghost realm, I can only tell you a little heart to heart. In addition, you must recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day to suppress the Shura. You can't let him harm the human world. Dizang of Goguryeo reminded. Chapter 984. Tian Chanzi stood in front of the Tree of Life. Looking at the black vortex in the sky, he frowned and fell into deep thought. Now, he had once again activated the Universal 8 Wilderness Formation to protect the Tree of Life. Everything was back to normal. Tang Jing, you brat, you must come back. We are all waiting for you. Moreover, you have so many romantic debts. If something really happens to you, those female friends of yours will cry their eyes out. Tian Chanzi had been waiting here for many days. Because he was too worried about Tang Jing, every day felt like a year. He was not in the mood to cultivate. He stared at the black vortex in the sky and the Tree of Life in a daze. Huh, Suddenly, his eyes changed. He stood up subconsciously and stared straight at the sky. The black vortex seems to be changing. He opened his eyes wide and found that the color of the vortex was fading little by little. Finally, it disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Holy sh*t. What's going on? He exclaimed and almost jumped up. Suddenly, he had an idea. Could it be that the boy worked? The black whirlpool had indeed disappeared, leaving behind only the blue sky with a gentle breeze. Enchanting was anxious. Like an ant on a hot pot, he paced around and muttered to himself, I hope it worked. Is Tang Jing okay? He was more worried about Tang Zheng's safety. After all, even he, who was in the apotheosis realm, did not dare to enter the ghost realm. The danger of Tang Zheng's trip could be imagined. He couldn't wait to go to the ghost realm to find out. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a huge change in the airflow not far away, and a pitch-black ghost gate suddenly appeared. Enchanting was shocked and immediately overjoyed. He exclaimed, that boy must be back. He rushed over quickly and happened to see Tang Jing swaggering out of the ghost gate. Enchanting grabbed him, looked him up and down, and circled him. Seeing that he was really fine, he breathed a sigh of relief with lingering fear and said with emotion, You are really lucky, kid. You are not hurt at all. How did you do it? Looking at Enchanting, Tang Jing sincerely felt a sense of intimacy. He said with a smile, Of course it's because I'm strong enough. Stop bragging. Do you think I don't know what you are capable of? Hurry up and tell me what happened. Why did you make that black vortex disappear? Enchanting urged impatiently. Tang Zheng looked up, and sure enough, he didn't see the black vortex. He smiled and asked, Have you been very worried about me these past few days? I'm not worried about you. It's the women in your family who are worried about you. Enchanting was very worried, but he refused to admit it. Tang Jing smiled and didn't point it out. He told him the whole story of the trip to the ghost realm. Enchanting was stunned and couldn't close his mouth for a long time. He exclaimed, It turns out that there are so many secrets in the ghost realm, and you said that the Dizang of Goguryeo became a Buddha. His strength is too strong. It is said that he has reached the first stage of the Mahayana realm. The first stage of the Mahayana realm. Enchanting's heart suddenly jumped. Even in the human world, there were many practitioners and strong people, but the masters of the Mahayana realm were absolutely rare. The Dizang of Goguryeo had such a powerful strength, which made Enchanting feel powerless. You are really a lucky star. If it weren't for you, the Dizang of Goguryeo would have attacked the human world. Even if the Empyrean fairy and I were there, I'm afraid we may not be the opponent of the Dizang of Goguryeo. Tang Jing shook his head. The Dizang of Goguryeo is a pacifist. He won't attack the human world indiscriminately. Moreover, the other kings of hell were suppressed this time because of the Dizang of Goguryeo. Yes, if I am lucky enough to meet him, I must thank him in person. Enchanting sighed. If there are no major events in the Yin and Yang realms, the Dizang of Goguryeo will definitely not set foot in the human world. The opportunity to meet is not easy. Enchanting smiled bitterly, I just said it casually. Since the tree of life is no longer in danger and is protected by the array, let's go home together. I don't know how it is at home. Okay. Of course, Enchanting did not want to stay here alone, so he left with the tang on his sword. However, they did not go straight to the capital. Instead, they went to the Li Palace first. The two descended from the sky and landed in the valley of the Li Palace. Whoosh! Whoosh! A series of figures rushed in from all directions. In the blink of an eye, the two were surrounded. At first, Li Xiaotian stayed in the Li Palace alone and tried to subdue the disciples of the Li Palace. Later, Granny Li escaped. In order to prevent her from sneaking back to the Li Palace, Tang Jing sent Wu Junshan and a few others to help Li Xiaotian. He did not know how the situation was now. When he saw a group of Li Palace disciples surrounding him, Tang Jing did not have time to make a move before someone in the crowd recognized him. It's you. Everyone, calm down. It's not an enemy. Hearing this, the tense atmosphere immediately eased. Tang Zheng breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the thing he was most worried about did not happen. Li Xiaotian's methods were truly exceptional. He had probably already subdued the Li Palace. The crowd dispersed, and a person majestically walked over. Taking a closer look, it was actually Li Xiaotian. Compared to before, she had a more severe aura. The other disciples of the Li Palace all bowed to her respectfully. Seeing this scene, one could understand the prestige Li Xiaotian held in their hearts. When Li Xiaotian saw Tang Zheng, her cold face immediately blossomed into a smile. She quickened her steps and arrived in front of him. She could not help but grab his hand and say, "You've finally returned." Li Xiaotian had also heard about Tang Zheng's trip to the ghost realm. She did not approve of his risky actions. Now that she saw him standing in front of her safe and sound, a heartfelt joy spread out from within her. Tang Zheng was grabbed by her soft and jade-like hand. A strange feeling flashed through his heart. He could not help but be infected by her smile. He asked, "Are you well?" Li Xiaotian smiled sweetly. "I'm very well. What about you? Do I look like I'm not well? Let's go inside to talk." Li Xiaotian invited him. Then she turned around and ordered the others, "You can all disperse." "Yes, holy maiden." The others respectfully withdrew. Li Xiaotian personally led Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi into the highest room. This room was some distance away from the other buildings. Its layout was completely different. Just by looking at it from the outside, one could feel an extraordinary aura. After entering, Tang Zheng was attracted by the elegant furnishings. However, this room did not seem to be for a woman to live in. On the contrary, it seemed very masculine. There were no men in the Li Palace, which made Tang Zheng rather surprised. Whose room is this?" Tang Zheng curiously asked. Li Xiaotian beamed and said, "I specially prepared this room for you. It's the best room in the Li Palace." "Prepared for me?" Tang Zheng pointed at his nose, incomparably flabbergasted. Li Xiaotian nodded. "Now that you are the new master of the Li Palace, this room can serve as a foil to your status." "The new master of the Li Palace?" Tang Zheng was confused. He suddenly remembered that he did not see Wu Junshan and the others. He hurriedly asked, "Just what is going on? Where are Wu and the others?" "They just left yesterday and returned to the capital." "As for why you are the master of the Li Palace, this is what I promised before. I will help you subdue the Li Palace." Li Xiaotian was like a child asking for credit. Her words were filled with joy. Tang Zheng was flabbergasted. He asked, "How did you do it in such a short amount of time?" Li Xiaotian proudly raised her neck and said, "How did I do it? You don't need to ask. In any case, the entire Li Palace will respect you as the master. We have already firmly grasped the Li Palace in our hands." Tian Chanzi also felt that it was inconceivable. This woman was a spirit of 100 changes and was most adept at catching people off guard. This time, he also could not figure out how she did it. He could not help but look her up and down. He thought that Tang Zheng leaving her life was really a wise decision. Her martial arts could not be considered the highest, but her ability was absolutely unparalleled. Even Mu Hongyan, this kind of outstanding business talent, might not be able to compare to her. This subduing of the Li Palace was enough to prove that although she had lost her memory, she did not lose her ability. Many things must have happened in this period of time. Tang Zheng's heart moved. He understood that the matter was definitely not as simple as she downplayed it. Seeing Tang Zheng looking at her with a burning gaze, Li Xiaotian muttered, "Something did happen. Granny Li came back. I almost died under her hands, but Wu and the others rushed back in time. In the end, Granny Li fled in a sorry state." When Li Xiaotian mentioned Granny Li, there was not the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. It was as if she was talking about a stranger, which made Tang Zheng feel a little strange. However, he also rejoiced. Fortunately, he had arranged for people to help Li Xiaotian. Otherwise, she would not have the chance to stand in front of him alive. Then, did the disciples of the Li Palace not react? Tang Zheng asked. Of course there was. Inu led a group of people in an attempt to counterattack. After failing, she led a few disciples of the Li Palace and escaped with Granny Li. However, I can guarantee that the remaining disciples of the Li Palace will wholeheartedly submit to you. Li Xiaotian said confidently. Inu resisted. Then, at that time, weren't you in danger? Li Xiaotian shook her head. I had already made preparations. Because, sooner or later, she would have rebelled against me. It's just that it was a little early, so she wouldn't be able to stir up any big waves. Are you always this confident? Am I? Li Xiaotian smiled sweetly. You didn't realize it yourself? Perhaps. First, take a look and see if you are satisfied with this room. If you are not satisfied, I will have people redecorate it. I am not that particular. Moreover, I am not a permanent resident of the Li Palace. Although you are not a permanent resident, you are still the master of the Li Palace. You must follow the rules. Li Xiaotian insisted. Seeing her insist that he was the new master of the Li Palace, Tang Zheng did not back down. The position of the Li Palace was very important. If he held it in his hands, it would be a great help. All right, I will do as you say. That night, Tang Zheng stayed in the room. In the dead of night, there was a knock on the door. Who? It's me. Opening the door, he saw Li Xiaotian standing gracefully outside. The night wind blew her skirt, revealing two slender jade legs. Under the illumination of the light, they were very eye-catching. It's so late. What's the matter? Tang Zheng asked curiously. Actually, I have another matter to report to you. Why didn't you say it during the day? This is a matter of the Li Palace. It's best if other people do not know. She was clearly guarding against Tian Chanzi. Chapter 985. In the dead of night, a single man and woman were in the same room. The lamplight shone on Li Xiaotian's face, adding a hint of haziness and gentleness to it. Li Xiaotian had cultivated the art of seduction since she was a child, so she normally presented herself as a fierce person. Now that she was in front of Tang Zheng, she completely shed her fierce exterior and revealed a feminine charm that complemented her seduction technique. Naturally, her charm soared. However, Tang Zheng's interest was piqued by her words, so he didn't pay too much attention to her appearance. When I was organizing the Li Palace's intelligence network, I discovered that the disciples of the Li Palace are scattered all over the world. In particular, there are many disciples of the Li Palace in the families of high officials and nobles in the capital. The majority of the Li Palace's intelligence is gathered by them, Li Xiaotian solemnly said. Oh. Tang Zheng's eyes brightened. He had previously had this question in his mind. The Li Palace was known for its intelligence network, so where did their intelligence come from? Moreover, the Li Palace was filled with female disciples, so Tang Zheng couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. Seeing that Li Xiaotian had taken the initiative to mention this matter, he hurriedly asked, what exactly is the situation? Many of these disciples of the Li Palace are wives and lovers of high officials and nobles. The Li Palace's intelligence network is gathered from them, but this isn't the key point. It turns out that the Li Palace's connections are the key. These past few years, Granny Li has only allowed these disciples to gather intelligence. I believe this is a reckless waste of God's gifts. Li Xiaotian bluntly criticized. Reckless waste of God's gifts? Tang Zheng was slightly astonished. He didn't expect Li Xiaotian to so directly criticize Granny Li. Yes, these disciples are a huge resource that can play an even more important role. They can even influence the decisions of the upper echelons of the government. I heard that your relationship with the government isn't very good. We can definitely start from here and slowly eliminate the enmity the government has for you. Pillow talk is very powerful. Li Xiaotian said and couldn't help but laugh. Pillow talk? Tang Jing shivered. Li Xiaotian was really amazing. He actually thought of this idea. If he could really whisper pillow talk into the ears of those high officials and nobles, the pressure he faced from the government would be much less. Ever since the incident in the imperial city, the chief's attitude towards him was very intriguing. He had to consider the influence of this. Although he was strong enough, he didn't want to be surrounded and intercepted by the government and be judged as an enemy. What do you think of my idea? Seeing that Tang Zheng was silent, Li Xiaotian asked as if he wanted to take credit. Tang Zheng gave him a thumbs up and praised from the bottom of his heart, "You're so smart. Thank you for the compliment." Li Xiaotian was immensely pleased with himself. He pursed his lips and smiled brilliantly. But Tang Zheng suddenly changed the topic. Water can carry a boat, but it can also sink it. These people might not listen to us, right? There must be some of Granny Li's confidants among them. If these people also spread pillow talk against us, wouldn't that be very disadvantageous for us? Li Xiaotian smiled faintly. Don't worry, I already expected this situation. I have a way to deal with these disobedient people. Seeing him so confident, Tang Jing didn't ask any more questions. However, thinking of how she risked her life to save a child she didn't know, she certainly wouldn't do anything too excessive. I did so well, are you going to reward me? Li Xiaotian stared at Tang Zheng with his sparkling eyes and asked mischievously. Looking at her beautiful face so close, smelling the faint fragrance of a woman, especially the witty charm that was inadvertently revealed between her eyebrows, Tang Zheng's head swayed. He quickly stabilized his mind and said, "What kind of reward do you want?" "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you when I think about it," Li Xiaotian said. "Okay." Tang Zheng readily agreed. This time, Li Xiaotian really did a big thing for him. If she had any requests, he would do his best to satisfy them. "That's right, will you be in any danger if you stay here? After all, Granny Li is still free and unfettered outside. Are you worried about me?" Li Xiaotian asked back. "Sort of. Yes means yes, no means no." "What do you mean sort of?" "Yes. I'm very happy. Don't worry, I will take good care of myself. Even if Granny Li makes a comeback, I still have a way to escape. Moreover, it wasn't easy for us to subdue the Li Palace. We can't just leave it like this." Li Xiaotian methodically analyzed. Her words were very reasonable, so Tang Jing didn't try to persuade her anymore. He just reminded her to pay attention to her own safety, and then told her that he and Tian Chanzi would leave tomorrow. "So soon? The scenery here is pretty good. Why don't you stay for a few more days?" Li Xiaotian's expression darkened. "There are still too many things in the capital. If I don't get rid of the Lord, my heart will never be at ease. In addition, the 100 Faces Star Lord will definitely not let this matter go. There are undercurrents surging. I don't dare to be careless," Tang Zheng said in a low voice. Li Xiaotian thought for a while, then nodded. "A man's ambition is to travel far. You have the qualifications, so you should establish a foundation. In short, you don't have to worry about the Li Palace. I will do my best to manage it. It will definitely not be inferior to the previous Li Palace." Li Xiaotian didn't stay for long. After chatting for a while, she took the initiative to leave. Standing in the darkness, her eyes were especially bright. Staring at Tang Zheng's room, the corner of her mouth hooked up in a faint smile. The next day, Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi left the Li Palace early in the morning. They flew on their swords and went straight to the capital. Since Tang Zheng's strength had greatly increased, flying on his sword consumed less and less true qi. Therefore, even if it was a long journey, it didn't affect him much. Since he had such a convenient means of transportation, why would he need to take a plane or a train? Suddenly, whoosh! The roar of a fighter jet came from the sky. 2 fighter jets flew out from the clouds. The 2 of them jumped in fright and hurriedly hid in a white cloud. Only then did they realize that the sky was not safe. They couldn't underestimate the military's air defense. Chengjiang, I'm Huang He. Did you see two people just now? One of the fighter jet pilots asked his comrade. Huang He, you must be seeing things. How can there be people in the sky? Maybe it's an eagle. The comrade laughed and joked. It shouldn't be. My eyesight has always been very good. This small episode didn't affect Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi. It just made them more cautious. They landed safely in the suburbs of the capital. They didn't dare to fly on their swords without restraint in the capital. Not to mention that the capital was full of tall buildings and many eyes. The most important thing was that the air defense was many times stronger. If they didn't pay attention, they would be treated as invaders and shot down. Once they arrived in the capital, the two of them went their separate ways. Tian Chanzi didn't want to go back to Tang Zheng's home. Tang Zheng walked through the streets and alleys. Suddenly, he stopped and came to a familiar yet strange place, the Go Club. Ji Wuxiang's Go Club was quiet in this bustling city. Its artistic conception was elegant, like a paradise. Ji Wuxiang is a mysterious person, especially those people in his Go Club. They look ordinary and have no skills at all, but they give off an extraordinary feeling. If there's a chance, I must go to this Go Club to investigate. In the capital, other than the officials, the only person who could attract Tang Zheng's attention or interest was probably this mysterious Ji Wuxiang. As for Yi Xuanji and the other experts, Tang Zheng didn't put them in his eyes at all. Not long after, he finally arrived at his door. Before he could get close to the door, a few figures jumped out. Lord Envoy, you're back. So these people were the Witch clan who were secretly protecting the villa. The Witch clan loved and respected Tang Zheng from the bottom of their hearts. Therefore, seeing him was even more exciting than seeing a great beauty. Looking at the energetic young men, Tang Zheng patted their shoulders and said, "Thank you for your hard work." They shook their heads like rattles and said excitedly, "It's not hard at all. It's our honor to serve you, Lord Envoy." Creak. The door opened and a beautiful figure flew out. It was actually Linger. Linger was like a dancing fairy. With a tap of her toes, she jumped into Tang Zheng's embrace and called out sweetly, "Master, you're finally back. Linger's luck is really good. I just returned to the capital and I actually saw you. Linger missed you so much." After parting ways in the south of Yunnan, Linger was busy with work and had no time to return to the capital. The two of them only talked on the phone occasionally, and this girl was reluctant to hang up every time. "Wow, Linger, you've grown taller again." Tang Zheng patted Linger's head and laughed. Linger's head was buried in Tang Zheng's chest. Hearing this, she raised her head and looked at him with her crystal-clear eyes, asking, "Really?" Of course, it means that Linger has grown up. Linger's mental age did not match her appearance at all, but she was growing up little by little. Looking at her cute appearance, Tang Zheng really felt like he was looking at a younger sister. Linger has grown up. Linger grabbed Tang Zheng's hand and rubbed it on her white and tender face as she said happily, "Why are you back in the capital?" "Linger is going to hold a concert." "Concert?" Tang Zheng was shocked. He didn't know much about Linger's work. He didn't expect that she was qualified to hold a concert. "I don't understand either, but anyway, Linger is very happy to be able to sing." Tang Zheng nodded. Linger had always loved singing. In the beginning, it was because she liked singing that she entered the entertainment industry. Now it seemed that her development was getting better and better. He said, "Then when you hold a concert, I'll also be a listener, okay?" "Really?" Linger's eyes immediately became round, black and bright. Seeing Tang Zheng nod his head, she jumped up in joy. "That's great, Linger is really happy." Wu Junshan, Lan Yu, and Wu also came out to welcome him. When the three of them saw Tang Zheng, they were extremely excited and almost ran over. Wu immediately threw himself into Tang Zheng's embrace and hugged him tightly, as if he was afraid that he would run away. He muttered to himself, "You're finally back, you're back." Tang Zheng also hugged her tightly, patted her back and said, "I promised you that I would definitely come back." Chapter 986. Marshall reluctantly left Tang Zheng's embrace, but she still held on to his hand tightly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she was unwilling to let go. Feeling her attachment, Tang Zheng felt a warm current flow through his heart. On the other side, Ling'er also tightly hugged one of his arms, as if he was hugging a woman on his left and right. The witch clan was not surprised. Instead, they felt that these women were truly honored to be able to obtain the emissary's affection. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at their son with excitement and relief. During this period of time, Lan Yu had become much more haggard. She thought about it day and night and was extremely worried. Tang Zheng nodded to the two of them. Lan Yu asked with concern, "I don't know how many dangers you've experienced on this trip." "It's been hard on you." Tang Zheng smiled and shook his head, saying that it wasn't hard. "Let's not stand outside for now. Let's talk inside," Lan Yu said. The few of them entered the house and found that only the Empyrean Fairy and Fu Yao were there. "Where are the others?" Tang Zheng asked curiously. "Those women of yours went to the island and haven't returned yet. Yi Ding Dang and are like stalkers all day, staring at each other. If one of them goes out, how can the other not follow?" The Empyrean Fairy said calmly. Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Only the Empyrean Fairy dared to speak so unscrupulously in front of him. "I didn't expect your trip to the Ghost Realm to end so quickly." The Empyrean Fairy sat up straight and looked at Tang Zheng with interest. Although the Empyrean Fairy had never been to the Ghost Realm, she had heard a little about it. She did not think that it was some kind of paradise, but a place of true danger. The fact that Tang Zheng had returned so quickly was truly out of her expectations. With the help of a benefactor, everything went smoothly. What benefactor? Although the Empyrean Fairy's cultivation was high, she had never been to the other world. Naturally, she was full of curiosity, and she couldn't hide her curiosity about the nobles. Wu Junshan, Lan Yu, and the others also widened their eyes and stared at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng briefly explained the trip to the Ghost Realm. When the few of them heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air, especially Lan Yu and Wu. Their expressions were especially worried. Wu grabbed onto Tang Zheng's palm and broke out in cold sweat. "It's so dangerous. Don't go to that damned place again," Marshall said with lingering fear. Lan Yu hurriedly agreed. "That's right. The Ghost Realm is too dangerous. Don't ever go there again. After all, the 10 Yama Kings are not to be trifled with. If they plot against you, it'll be too late for regrets. Master is really amazing." Ling'er was innocent and didn't feel that it was too dangerous. Instead, she felt that her master was an unparalleled hero. The Empyrean Fairy listened with great interest. Her eyes became brighter and brighter. She suddenly nodded and said, "So the Ghost Realm not only has the 10 Yama Kings, there is also an even more powerful Dezong of Goguryeo. This is really surprising. Dezong of Goguryeo upholding justice and the two realms living in peace is definitely a good thing for us. For the time being, we don't have to worry about the Ghost Realm." After pausing for a moment, the Empyrean Fairy changed the topic and said, "However, the Ghost Realm still has the 10 Yama Kings. In the future, there will be some unforeseen events. Therefore, we can't let our guard down. With the Dezong of Goguryeo presiding over the situation, there shouldn't be any unforeseen events, right?" Tang Zheng felt that the Empyrean Fairy was making a mountain out of a molehill. The Empyrean Fairy smiled. "In the past, I saw too many people and too many things. The Ghost Realm is not much different from the human world. Everything is developing and changing. The Dezong of Goguryeo can preside over the situation now, but it doesn't mean that he can in the future. Therefore, we still have to be fully prepared." Wu Junshan, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. "Fu Yao is right. Humans are the most fickle, and ghosts are no exception. It's still too early to discuss this." Tang Zheng didn't want to talk too much and changed the topic. "You didn't tell anyone that I went to the Ghost Realm, right?" "According to your instructions, we didn't tell anyone." "That's good. Tang Zheng breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want Yi Dingdang and the others to worry about him. Just as they were talking, the door was pushed open and walked in angrily. She said indignantly, "Yi Dingdang, don't go too far. Wherever I go, you follow. Do you think I'm a spy?" Yi Dingdang's clear voice came from outside the door. "Who said I thought you were a spy? The main road is to the sky, and we'll go our separate ways. This isn't your country, this is my country. I'll go wherever I want to go. What can you do about it?" And was about to retaliate when her eyes suddenly stared blankly. She screamed and jumped up like a rabbit, pouncing straight at Tang Zheng. Looking at the menacing Anne, Tang Zheng jumped up from the sofa and dodged to the side. And missed and fell on the sofa. Tang Zheng was really shocked by this scene. When he left, and followed him. Later, he let Yi Dingdang watch her so that they had a chance to leave. They just met Anne and actually pounced on him. If he was really pushed down by her in front of so many people, then he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Doubts arose in his heart. When did Anne become so fierce? It didn't seem like her style before. Although Anne dared to do things, she still had the blood of the royal family flowing in her body. She had the natural grace of the royal family. How did she become like a violent female leopard? However, he didn't know that Anne's life had undergone earth-shattering changes during this period of time. Ever since she openly announced that she liked Tang Zheng in front of so many people and wanted to pursue him, Yi Dingdang had listed her as the #1 enemy. That was why she gave up on the island trip and stayed behind to guard and so that she wouldn't have a chance to take advantage of any loopholes. And couldn't beat Yi Dingdang in a fight. She was also no match for Yi Dingdang in a brutal way. Being watched every day almost drove Anne crazy, but there was nothing she could do. If looks could kill, Yi Dingdang would have been riddled with holes and died countless times. Yi Dingdang knew that she couldn't do anything to Anne, so she took a step back and took this kind of nonviolent action. While Tang Zheng wasn't around, it was best to annoy Anne and then pack up and leave. This was the best outcome. But in the end, what Yi Dingdang didn't expect was that although Anne was on the verge of exploding every time, in the end, she took a few deep breaths and actually endured it. A dignified princess actually endured such a huge grievance. If it weren't for her love rival, Yi Dingdang would have to admire her. Yi Dingdang couldn't do anything, but she became even more vigilant. Hearing Anne scream, Yi Dingdang also suddenly saw Tang Zheng on the sofa. Before she could react, she realized that Anne had actually rushed toward Tang Zheng. Yi Dingdang was so angry that smoke was coming out of her 7 orifices. 3 words appeared in her mind: shameless. Seeing that and missed, Yi Dingdang finally laughed gloatingly. She slipped and also rushed in front of Tang Zheng. Like a swallow returning to the forest, she threw herself into his arms and winked at Anne as if to show off. When Anne saw that Yi Dingdang had caught up with her, she angrily glared at Tang Zheng as if blaming him for not understanding the situation and avoiding her. A fragrant scent entered his nose as a soft body fell into his arms. Tang Zheng subconsciously hugged Yi Dingdang, and her hands hooked around his neck. Ahem. Wu Junshan coughed dryly, as if reminding them that there were outsiders present. Tang Zheng's expression was resentful when he realized that everyone was looking at him strangely. Just now, he was hugging one woman on each side, and now there was another one. This kind of scene was not suitable for children. Stand properly. How old are you already? Still making such a fuss. Tang Zheng pretended to be serious as he reluctantly let go of the softness in his palm. Yi Dingdang smiled sweetly and acted coquettishly. You still dare to scold me? Humph, you have no conscience. To think that I was so worried about you. Tang Zheng resentfully said in a low voice, so many people are watching. Yi Dingdang bit her lip and glared at him. She said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, I'll deal with you tonight. Tang Zheng's head shook. When he was in the ghost realm, his pure yang energy had exploded. If it weren't for luck, he would have exploded and died. Hearing Yi Dingdang's provocative words, his thoughts couldn't help but stir. His pure yang energy seemed to be restless again. Tang Zheng, you've been gone for so long. I miss you very much too. Seeing the two separated, and took the initiative to walk over. She stretched out her arms as if she wanted Tang Zheng to give her a big hug. Looking at Yi Dingdang's eyes that were about to spit fire, Tang Zheng didn't dare to enjoy this beauty's kindness. He acted as if he didn't see it and politely said, "Thank you for Anne's concern. I'm too tired from the journey. I'll go back to my room to rest. You can continue chatting." The atmosphere in the living room was so strange that Tang Zheng didn't want to stay and attract the fire. He quickly slipped away and returned to his room. Yi Dingdang was like a general who had won a battle. She proudly glanced at Anne as if to say that compared to her, she was still too young. And angrily stomped her foot and gritted her teeth. She refused to admit defeat and said, "Let's wait and see." She walked back to her room in her high heels. Her room was next to Tang Zheng's. It was her act of moving her room that provoked the other women. They hated her blatant act of poaching, but because she was too open and honorable, and also had the status of a princess, the others couldn't do anything about it. Wu Junshan looked at this scene worriedly. He exchanged glances with his wife. The two tacitly walked to the side and whispered to each other. Tang Zheng's charm to attract girls is too great. This house is like a war all day long. It's not a good thing. As his mother, shouldn't you remind him? Wu Junshan said worriedly. How can I say something like this? Shouldn't you be the one saying it as his father? Lan Yu rolled her eyes. Although this is a bit inappropriate, at least it proves that our son is very charming. You old man naturally can't compare to him. Wu Junshan bitterly smiled. How can I compare to him? I'm just worried that there will be a fire in the backyard. After all, women can be very scary when they go crazy. Lan Yu glared at him and asked, "Are you saying that I'm very scary? When was I talking about you? Am I not a woman? I'm talking about other women." Chapter 987. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A rustling sound came from the window. Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes and guessed that there was someone outside the window. Caw! The window was gently pushed open, and a person jumped in. His movements were nimble and vigorous. Tang Zheng jumped off the bed like a carp and grabbed the person's shoulder. With a shoulder throw, the person was thrown onto the bed. He quickly followed up and reached out with his hand, grabbing the other person's neck. His series of movements were as smooth as flowing water. "I-oh." A cry of surprise sounded. "What are you doing? Are you going to kill me?" "Ding dang, why is it you?" Tang Zheng was startled by this voice. He thought that an enemy had snuck in. He didn't expect it to be this girl. Tang Zheng quickly turned on the lights and saw Yi Dingdang lying on the bed. Her clothes were messy and her nightgown was rolled up to her thighs, revealing her two white thighs. "Why can't it be me?" "Hang, you were waiting for someone else, right? Anne, or Wu?" Yi Dingdang angrily stood up with her almond eyes wide open. "Nonsense, there's no such thing." "Hang, don't say you didn't think about it." Yi Dingdang glanced at him with a look that said she had already seen through his thoughts. Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at her beautiful appearance under the light, his heart moved and he hugged her slender waist. "What are you doing? Let go of your claws." Yi Dingdang slapped his hand a few times. Seeing that there was no way to stop him, she just let him do whatever he wanted. Seeing Yi Dingdang so close, Tang Zheng's breathing couldn't help but become heavier as he said, "Did you miss me? That's why you snuck into my window? Who missed you? Shameless." Yi Dingdang snorted and turned her head away. However, the expression between her eyebrows betrayed her. She really missed him. After being apart for such a long time, it was better to be apart than to be newly married. This kind of feeling could only be understood by those involved. "But I miss you." Tang Zheng stared intently into her eyes, his voice full of emotion. Yi Dingdang's cheeks reddened as she said, "Who asked you to think about it? You're thinking about Anne, right? Hey, you're still talking about her? I think you're asking for a beating. Tang Zheng immediately put on a straight face and slapped Yi Dingdang's butt. Pa! The slap was clear and loud in the night. Yi Dingdang felt as if she had been electrocuted. Her entire body trembled, and her cheeks immediately turned into a ripe apple. She clenched her teeth and struggled to resist the throbbing in her heart. Tang Zheng's head swayed as he took the opportunity to press her down on the bed. Yi Dingdang's hands were pressed against his chest, but she still couldn't resist his demonic claws. Very quickly, her body and mind completely fell into his hands. The moonlight spilled in from the window and shined on the two bodies on the bed. The moon seemed to be shy as it secretly hid in the clouds, leaving only the two naked bodies tormenting each other under the light. "Io!" Suddenly, Tang Jing softly cried out, "What are you doing?" He only saw Yi Dingdang biting his shoulder. 2 rows of snow-white teeth left 2 rows of teeth marks on his shoulder. Yi Dingdang's eyes revealed a pleased look as she exhaled and said, "Who told you to torment me and flirt with other women? This is the result. Are you a dog? You're the dog." Yi Dingdang bared her teeth as if she wanted to take another bite. "All right, you bit me, so I'm going to bite you." Tang Zheng suddenly lowered his head and opened his mouth. "Ah, you can't bite there." "Ah." At daybreak, Tang Zheng walked out of the room with a faint smile on his face. He was reminiscing about last night's exciting battle. Yi Dingdang was like a little pepper. She was really hot enough to leave him with a rich aftertaste. His pure yang energy was completely appeased for the time being. He felt refreshed and full of energy. Yi Dingdang walked down from the second floor. Her face was glowing like a flower that had been nourished. Last night, although her legs were weak, she still quietly returned to her room. This act of deceiving herself made Tang Zheng laugh endlessly. Seeing Tang Zheng looking at her, Yi Dingdang fiercely glared at him. After breakfast, Tang Zheng sat under a big tree in the courtyard, basking in the sun and resting with his eyes closed. Linger sat at the side, holding a fruit plate. She used a fork to fork a small piece of fruit and fed it to him. He lazily opened his mouth and the fruit entered his mouth. He enjoyed it incomparably. He was simply a hedonistic young master from the old society. Linger was a big star, but she was not tired of doing the work of a little servant girl. Her face was brimming with a smile that was brighter than the sun. Yi Dingdang looked at the two of them at the door and helplessly shook her head. Linger was really hopeless. Was there a need to spoil him like this? Tang Zheng, how could he bear to order such an innocent and cute little girl around like this? Anne, who was sitting at the side, did not have this kind of treatment. On the contrary, because of Linger's existence, she almost could not get a word in edgewise. Yi Dingdang was happy to see Anne suffer, so she hid at the side and snickered. "Who is it? Stop." Suddenly, the voice of a witch tribe warrior came from outside the courtyard. I'm looking for someone," a person said submissively. "Who are you looking for?" "Tang Zheng." "Why are you looking for our Lord Emissary?" "Lord Emissary?" The person was obviously stunned. He did not know what to do. Tang Zheng recognized the voice. It was Yan Liang, his former tutor, but he did not want to pay attention to him. After all, they were practically from 2 different worlds. There was no need to ridicule each other for their past disputes. The school still hasn't given up. They still want to persuade me to go back to school? Tang Zheng could not help but laugh. His life now was too dangerous and exciting. School life seemed like child's play to him. Moreover, the school had already cancelled his student record. He really did not have much interest in it. "Go tell Tang Zheng that Qi Shaoan wants to see him." Another old voice sounded. Tang Zheng shot up from his chair and exclaimed in a low voice, "Professor Qi, why is he here?" He quickly walked to the door. As expected, Professor Qi Shaoan and Yan Liang were standing at the door. Yan Liang was very nervous. He did not know where to put his hands and feet. Qi Shaowen's hair was gray but his expression was calm. He stood there proudly. Yan Liang's aura paled in comparison. Professor Qi, why are you here? Tang Zheng greeted him warmly. Qi Shaowen saw Tang Zheng and a smile appeared on his face. He teased, it's not easy to see you. You even have guards. Professor Qi, you must be joking. I have no choice. The capital city has not been peaceful recently. Yes, too many things have happened in the capital city recently. It's like the world has been turned upside down. Qi Shaowen lamented. His gaze involuntarily fell on Ling Er. She was standing by the side obediently with a plate of fruits. She was slender and elegant, very eye-catching. Brother, do you still want some? Ling Er asked while forking a piece of fruit. In front of outsiders, she automatically called him brother. This was something Tang Zheng had repeatedly reminded her. She finally remembered it. I'm not eating. You go back to the house first. Oh, then I'll feed you later. Ling Er carried the plate of fruit and floated away like a fairy. All that was left was her beautiful back. In the eyes of Qi Shaowen and Yan Liang, the significance of this scene became extraordinarily significant. Qi Shaowen had seen Tang Zheng's tricks. He was slightly surprised but did not pay much attention to it. Yan Liang, however, recognized Ling Er. Tang Ling Er, who had been making a lot of appearances recently, was very popular. Although Yan Liang was not a fan of celebrities, he was still a young man. It was not difficult for him to recognize her. Tang Ling Er was even prettier in person than she was on the screen. But why was she so nice to Tang Zheng? She was like a maid serving him. This did not make sense. She was a superstar. Was this a movie? Seeing that Qi Shaowen had been invited into the courtyard, Yan Liang followed him in shamelessly. Princess Anne, you're here too. Qi Shaowen and Anne knew each other. He nodded and greeted her. And stood up and returned the greeting politely. Professor Qi, nice to meet you. Yan Liang's brain shut down. Didn't Anne come back to China? Why was she at Tang Zheng's house? Tang Zheng was indeed a powerful man, but he could not be this powerful. Not only did he have a superstar as his maid, but he also had a European princess as his mistress. After both of them were seated, Ling Er walked out with a cup of tea. She said in a crisp voice, Grandpa, please have some tea. Qi Shaowen smiled happily. Okay, thank you, young lady. When Yan Liang saw Ling Er serving him tea, he hurriedly stood up. His face was as red as a tomato. He took the cup with trembling hands and sat down gingerly. Professor Qi, long time no see. You look better than before, said Tang Zheng. Qi Shaowen shook his head. I'm old and useless. I have to admit that I'm old. You're the leading figure in the archaeological field. You're a walking treasure trove. You're not old at all. So many people are counting on you to teach them a thing or two. Qi Shaowen smiled happily and started chatting. Yan Liang could not get a word in edgewise. He sat awkwardly and felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles. The two beautiful women sitting opposite him were too intimidating. Yan Liang's usual bossy attitude towards students was completely gone. He felt a little breathless. Tang Zheng, let's not beat around the bush. I'm here on a commission, said Qi Shaowen. Oh, what's the matter? Qi Shaowen glanced at Yan Liang and said, the school still hopes that you can go back to school. After all, your grades have always been excellent. The school doesn't want to lose a talent like you. As for the cancellation of your student status, it's all a misunderstanding. The person who did it has already been punished. Professor Qi, the school's leaders are really smart. I can't believe they asked you to be their lobbyist. Tang Zheng smiled and said teasingly. Everyone knew that Tang Zheng was close to Professor Qi Shaowen. He was indeed the most suitable person to be their lobbyist. Actually, I think that university life is still necessary. Although I know that you can't study forever, you can still study for as long as you can. This is a life journey. You shouldn't give up halfway. Qi Shaowen advised. Yan Liang seemed to have woken up from a dream. Only then did he remember his mission. He nodded hurriedly and said, Professor Qi, you're right. University life is still necessary. Tang Jing glanced at Yan Liang casually. Yan Liang's heart skipped a beat. He quickly shut his mouth and chuckled awkwardly. The school is very open-minded. If you have any concerns or requests, you can tell us. The school will try its best to satisfy you. Qi Shaowen continued persuading him earnestly. Chapter 988. No, definitely not. Yan Liang promised after hearing Tang Zheng's words. Tang Zheng glanced at him and asked, Is your promise useful? Yan Liang's cheeks flushed red. He stammered, The school told me to tell you that there won't be any more unpleasant incidents like the past. Tang Zheng waved his hand. There's no need to talk about this anymore. Yan Liang's face turned pale when he realized that he was about to fail again. He looked at Qi Shaowen with pleading eyes. The school had given him an ultimatum. If he could not persuade Tang Zheng to return to school, his career as a counselor would be over. He could forget about getting promoted in the future. That was why Yan Liang had shamelessly asked Qi Shaowen for help. Qi Shaowen was soft-hearted despite his benevolent appearance. He was persuaded by Yan Liang's pitiful and tearful face. Of course, Qi Shaowen also thought that university life was very important. He felt that it was a pity to see Tang Zheng leave school, so he agreed to talk to him. Tang Zheng, you don't have to rush to answer. Think about it first. There are still a few days before school starts. You can tell us then, said Qi Shaowen. Looking at his eager eyes, Tang Zheng swallowed back the words of rejection. Since Professor Qi had already said so, then he would drag it out for a few days, so he nodded and said, Okay, I'll reply to you after a while. Thank you so much. We'll wait for your good news. Yan Liang was overjoyed and moved to tears. This was the first step in a long journey. As long as he did not reject him outright, it meant that there was still a chance. Yan Liang seemed to see a bright future waving at him again. Then I'll take my leave. I found a few nice antiques recently. Come take a look when you have time, said Qi Shaowen. Stay for lunch. No, next time. Qi Shaowen knew that Tang Zheng and Yan Liang did not get along. The atmosphere was not harmonious. Tang Zheng walked them to the door and waved goodbye. Yan Liang kept nodding and bowing, showing a flattered look. If you go back to school, then we'll be classmates again. Yi Dingdang walked out and joked. Don't you want to be my classmate? Suit yourself. Yi Dingdang shrugged and said nonchalantly, I'm just worried about those fresh flowers in school. If you go back, who knows who will fall into your evil clutches? Cough cough. Tang Zheng coughed awkwardly. Was he such a playboy? He rubbed his nose resentfully and didn't continue the conversation. With your ability, there's no need for you to go to school at all. Your business is so big, you can definitely do something. Haven't you seen how many founders of famous companies in the world are dropouts? Isn't that cool? And said. Her study abroad was over. She didn't want Tang Zheng to go back to school. It would be a disaster for her if he stayed with Yi Dingdang every day. Yi Dingdang's almond-shaped eyes widened as she retorted, Who said that university is useless? You don't know how much his grandfather wants him to go to school. Tang Zheng's face stiffened. His heart was sad. He didn't have time to tell his grandfather about his expulsion. Yi Dingdang was right. His grandfather really wanted him to finish university. This had been his wish for many years. If he told his grandfather about his expulsion, his grandfather would take Tang Zheng's feelings into consideration and wouldn't say anything. However, he would be very disappointed in his heart. Thinking of this, Tang Zheng felt how selfish he was. He only considered his own feelings and ignored his grandfather's wishes. I haven't seen my grandfather in a long time. I want to go to the island. Moreover, school is about to start, so I need to bring Shirshir and the others back. You want to go to the island? I'll go with you. I haven't been there before. Yi Ding Dang heard this and immediately volunteered. I'll go too. And said, not to be outdone. None of you can go. I'll go alone and I'll be back soon. Moreover, I'll be back in a way that none of you will ever expect. Tang Zheng said mysteriously. What way? Let's keep you in suspense first. Humph, deliberately mystifying. Yi Ding Dang glared at him. Tang Zheng walked straight to the backyard. The others followed him. They wanted to see what he was going to do. Standing in the backyard, Tang Zheng looked around. Then, he circulated his qi. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several streams of qi shot out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, several complex patterns appeared on the ground. They flickered a few times and then disappeared. The others stared with wide eyes but couldn't see anything. Tang Zheng, you're setting up an array? The Empyrean fairy suddenly walked over. Her eyes lit up as she stared at the ground. You saw through it? Tang Zheng clapped his hands. He was done. What kind of array is this? There seems to be something about it. The Empyrean fairy curiously asked. You can't recognize this array? Tang Zheng was surprised. There are thousands of arrays. How can I recognize all of them? Then let me keep you in suspense. You'll know soon enough. The Empyrean fairy frowned. Seeing that Tang Zheng had made up his mind, she didn't ask any more questions. However, her curiosity was completely aroused by Tang Zheng. She walked around the backyard a few times but still couldn't see anything. I'm going to the island to pick someone up. You guys stay at home. I'll be back soon, and I'll be back in a way I've never done before. Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously. Yi Ding Dang grabbed him and threatened, You still dare to keep us in suspense? Are you going to tell us or not? What's going on? Tang Zheng raised his neck like a martyr. He said vehemently, I won't give in to force. I won't tell you. Seeing his comical appearance, Yi Ding Dang pinched him hard and said, You're getting more and more cunning. You're going back to the island? Say hello to the people on the island for me. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu walked over. Many of Wu Junshan's subordinates were still on the island, so they couldn't help but miss them. Don't worry. It'll be easy for you to see them in the future. How is that possible? Lan Yu was in disbelief. The capital was thousands of kilometers away from the island. One had to switch between many different modes of transportation. It was truly troublesome to go back and forth. How could it be easy? Seeing that they didn't believe him, Tang Zheng didn't point it out. He waved his hand and strode out of the villa. In the blink of an eye, he had left the capital. He then flew toward the island on his sword. Not long after, he arrived above the vast sea. The azure sky and the seawater formed a beautiful contrast. It was exceptionally magnificent. Looking down from above, he saw a lush island in the distance. This island was like a pearl in the middle of the vast sea. Whoosh! Tang Zheng turned into a streak of light and dove down. Boom! A ray of light shot up from the island and blocked Tang Zheng's path, causing Tang Zheng to be sent flying backwards. This is Gue Qiansui's defense. Tang Zheng secretly praised. Who dares to trespass into my territory? Gue Qiansui's voice rang out. In the vast sea, it was clearly transmitted to Tang Zheng's ears. Gue Qiansui, it's me. Tang Zheng didn't want to have more conflicts, so he directly revealed his identity. Immortal, it's you? Gue Qiansui cried out in surprise. The light dissipated. Tang Zheng landed steadily on the island. The witch tribe elder and the others came up to greet him. The big movement just now had completely alarmed the people on the island. Lord Messenger, why are you here? The witch tribe elder led the witch tribe people to bow their heads. Tang Jing quickly held him and said, "Elder is too polite. Everyone, get up. I haven't seen you for a long time. I'm here to visit you." The elder was extremely moved. "Thank you for your concern, Tang Zheng." A pleasantly surprised voice came from behind, causing Tang Zheng to turn around abruptly, only to find Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei looking at him affectionately. "Brother." Another petite figure came out from between the two. Like a lively little elf, she directly threw herself into Tang Zheng's arms and hooked her arms around his neck. She stared at him with wide eyes. Tang Zheng laughed and hugged Nana. "Nana, you've grown taller and heavier." This little girl was becoming more and more delicate, just like a little princess from a fairy tale. Her big, black eyes turned as she pouted and said, "Big brother, are you saying that Nan has gotten fat?" "Ah, how could it be? Then you said I've become heavier." "Because you've grown taller, that's why you've become heavier." Nana suddenly understood and smiled. "That's good. Nana doesn't want to become fat. Nana needs to be thin. Only then will she be beautiful. What does a little girl like you know about beauty?" Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh and pinched her pink cheeks. Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei looked at Tang Zheng in a daze. Seeing that his embrace was completely occupied by Nana, they couldn't steal his embrace from a little girl. They could only helplessly look at the two of them with a smile. "All right, come down." Tang Zheng put down Nana. The little girl was reluctant to part with him and pouted. Tang Zheng stretched out his arms and tightly hugged Fang Shishir. Fang Shishir closed her eyes sweetly and snuggled up to his broad chest, a sweet smile appearing on her lips. "I've come to pick you guys up," Tang Zheng said softly. Fang Shishir leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "I missed you." After saying this, she wrapped her arms around his waist. "I missed you too." Tang Zheng hugged her tightly as if he wanted to rub her into his body. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, Fang Shishir was both happy and shy. She whispered, "Everyone's looking." Tang Zheng didn't care and said, "Let them look." Lu Qingmei's eyes were fiery as she looked at this scene with envy. If only she was in that embrace. But because of her identity, she couldn't openly lie in that warm embrace. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Tang Zheng raised his head and happened to see Lu Qingmei. His heart moved and he let go of Fang Shishir. He strode to Lu Qingmei and hugged her in his arms. Lu Qingmei's body stiffened and her heart suddenly tightened as if it was about to stop beating. Her cheeks were red like fire. She didn't expect that Tang Zheng would dare to do such a thing in front of everyone. She was at a loss for a moment. "Sister Mei, I missed you too," Tang Zheng whispered in her ear. Chapter 989. Tang Zheng calmly separated and hugged the elder. He even hugged the witch clan warrior beside him, as if he was hugging a group of old friends, and perfunctorily passed by. Fang Shishir was immersed in her own emotions, and did not notice the unusual and subtle relationship between the two of them. "Little Zheng, you're here." An old voice sounded, and a figure walked over with vigorous steps. Tang Zheng's face changed slightly, he became excited and quickly welcomed the person, cheering, "Grandfather." Tang Dahai's mental state was much better than before, he was in high spirits, and even the wrinkles on his face had lessened. He laughed heartily as he looked at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng hugged him and said excitedly, "Grandfather, I came to see you, little Zheng missed you so much." The truth was revealed, it was moving. Tang Dahai patted Tang Zheng's back in relief and said, "You've matured a lot, and your body has become stronger." Tang Zheng laughed foolishly and asked, "Grandfather, how is your body? Are you used to living on the island?" Tang Dahai forced a smile and said, "What's there to be unaccustomed to? The air is good, there's no need to breathe in the smog, the scenery is charming, and everyone takes good care of me, it's like home." Although he said that, Tang Dahai could clearly see a trace of melancholy between his brows. His heart skipped a beat, and he understood that his grandfather's words were not sincere. With his personality, he would definitely not be used to living in this kind of place. Moreover, he did not even have a familiar friend, so he could not help but feel lonely. "Grandfather, I'm here to bring you back to live," Tang Zheng said impatiently as his heart ached. "Bring me back?" Tang Dahai was shocked, then overjoyed, but his expression quickly darkened, and he said worriedly, "I heard that the environment in the country is very dangerous. When I go back, will I cause you trouble? I think it's better if I stay here. Having someone take care of me every day is already a blessing. I never dared to imagine such a life in the past. Grandfather, don't worry. With me here, no one can hurt you." Tang Zheng patted his chest and promised. "Really?" Tang Dahai was skeptical. Tang Zheng laughed. "Grandpa, I'm here to pick you up. Don't worry." Tang Dahai let out a sigh of relief and smiled as if relieved of a heavy burden. If that's the case, it's good to go back. Many buildings had already been built on the island, making it look like a holiday resort. Under the guidance of the elder, Tang Zheng gradually experienced the atmosphere of the island. The elder acted as a narrator, and the grass and objects gradually became lively under his introduction. "Elder, it's been hard on all of you. You've built such a big home from scratch." The elder laughed. "Lord Envoy, we are not at all tired. It is a wonderful thing for the witch clan to build their own home. If not for Lord Envoy, we would not have had this opportunity." After a pause, the elder continued, "Lord Envoy, according to your instructions, we have already established a holy land." "Oh? Really?" Tang Zheng was shocked. This was just something he casually mentioned when he gave the spar to the elder, who would have thought that he would actually start to establish it. He was truly a person of action. "We did it according to our own ideas. As for the specific improvements, we will make them after Lord Envoy points them out," the elder said modestly. "Let's go take a look at the sacred ground first." Tang Zheng was in high spirits, and the group of them walked towards the depths of the island. The other witch clan members automatically retreated, and did not continue to follow them. There are no rules, the sacred ground is extremely important. Outsiders are not allowed to enter, and the witch clan is not allowed to enter anytime and anywhere. This can guarantee the sacred place of the sacred ground in everyone's hearts. The elder clearly saw through Tang Zheng's doubts and explained. Tang Zheng nodded in understanding. As for Lord Envoy's relatives and friends, they are not within this range. They can enter the sacred ground at any time. During this period of time, they have absorbed the energy of the spar and cultivated diligently. Just now, Tang Zheng had already noticed the changes in their cultivation, and the one who rose the fastest was actually Nan Nan. Nan Nan was truly worthy of being the disciple of a famous teacher. With the guidance of the ninth heaven mystical maiden, Nanan's cultivation was like sitting on a rocket, and with a so sound, she actually reached the first grade of the fasting stage. This speed was not inferior to that of Tang Zheng back then. His current cultivation was almost catching up to that of Yi Dingdang, Fang Shishir, and Lu Qingmei. The two of them had cultivated for a long time longer than Nana, but their speed was far inferior to Nana's. No wonder the Empyrean fairy insisted on accepting Nana as her disciple. Her talent was unparalleled, and in the future, Tang Zheng was completely unable to predict how much her cultivation would increase to. Of course, although Nana's cultivation was high, she was still a child after all. Her mind was not mature, and her fighting strength was greatly reduced, to the point that she could not even compare to an ordinary cultivator in the foundation establishment stage. Tang Zheng did not want to rush the seedlings to help them grow, so he did not have high requirements for Nana. Her development had already exceeded his expectations, which made him very gratified. As for Fang Shishir, her cultivation had also advanced by leaps and bounds, and she had already reached the 5th level of fasting. It could be seen that she had worked very hard during this period of time. Lu Qingmei was slightly inferior, but she had also reached the 2nd level of fasting. The weakest was Tang Dahai. He was already old, and cultivation was more for him to strengthen his body. That was why he was only at the 4th level of the foundation establishment stage. Actually, we have to thank the elder for his guidance. If not for the elder's careful guidance, our cultivation would not have advanced by leaps and bounds. Hearing the elder's praise, Fang Shishir said with a smile that was like a flower. You're welcome. I'm just giving you some superficial insights. It's mainly because you have high aptitudes and are hardworking in your cultivation. The elder waved his hand, not daring to claim credit. Stop flattering each other. In short, everyone is very powerful. Tang Zheng concluded. Sir Envoy, in fact, everyone should be thanking you the most. Because you provided the spar and everyone absorbed the energy of the spar, their cultivation was able to increase rapidly. The elder said sincerely. How are the spar now? Tang Zheng's heart moved, and he asked curiously. The elder pointed to the front and said, We have arrived at the sacred land. Sir Envoy will know when you see it. Looking up, the scene in front of him changed drastically. The tropical plants became more and more lush, the lotus leaves were infinitely green, and the densely packed branches formed a dome above his head, completely covering the space in front of him, as if there was another world inside. A huge stone tablet stood in front of the dome with the word, Sacred Land, written on it. There were many complicated patterns on the stone tablet that flickered with a mysterious light. The elder channeled his energy into the stone tablet, causing it to flicker with light. The dome let out a rustling sound, and the branches came to life and quickly retreated. Finally, a door and a path were revealed. Sir Envoy, please enter. Tang Zheng lifted his foot and walked in. Inside the dome was a completely different world. It was a huge space with the crystal placed in the center. There were many people sitting around, their palms placed on the crystal as they continuously absorbed the energy to cultivate. The spar became transparent, and the strange creature inside could be seen clearly. Everyone was already used to it, so they did not take it seriously. When Tang Zheng saw this spar again, he subconsciously thought of the spar that the Azure Dragon Palace worshipped and sealed himself. Xian Yin and this unknown creature must have come from the sky beyond heaven, but Xian Yin could break the seal on his own, and this unknown creature could not. The spar was slightly smaller than before, so for the time being, this unknown creature did not have the chance to be born. Has there been any abnormality in the spar during this period of time? Tang Zheng asked. The elder pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, According to our observation, there are no abnormalities. Tang Zheng muttered to himself and nodded. Looking at the witch clan members who were immersed in their cultivation, he said in a low voice, Everyone, be quiet. Don't disturb their cultivation. I'll just take a look around. After walking around the spar, Tang Zheng discovered that everyone was focused on cultivating. Energy was continuously flowing from the spar into their palms, and their cultivation speed was indeed much faster than ordinary people. The elder introduced in a low voice, The energy of the spar is too strong. After everyone absorbs a certain amount of energy, they must spend a period of time to refine it. Otherwise, it will be harmful to their cultivation. Tang Zheng's cultivation was powerful, and he refined the energy very quickly, so he did not have this problem. Therefore, everyone takes turns to come to the sacred grounds to cultivate. Elder, your arrangements are very thorough. With you doing all of this, I can rest assured. Lord Envoy, you flatter me. After wandering around for a while, the few of them left the sacred grounds. The dome returned to normal, blocking everyone's line of sight. Ever since we obtained the spar, our clansman's cultivation has risen to a new level. The entire witch clan is grateful to Lord Envoy. The elder bowed slightly and said gratefully. Elder, if you say such polite words again, I will be angry. Tang Zheng purposely kept a straight face. This old man has misspoken. Lord Envoy, please don't blame me. Sigh, if the clansmen who returned to the country had the chance to absorb energy, then our witch clan would be even more powerful. The elder could not help but sigh with regret. Tang Zheng laughed, Elder's words are very true, we must treat everyone equally, the young elites of the clan must go to the secular world to gain experience, and the clansmen outside must also take the time to come back and concentrate on cultivating, cultivation is the foundation of cultivators. But this round trip is a long journey. Moreover, they don't have the ability to fly on their swords yet, Lord Envoy. It's too troublesome. Tang Zheng said mysteriously, this time, I specially came here to solve this problem, to eliminate your worries, to establish a passage between the island and the capital, and then you can come and go unimpeded. Is there such a way? The elder was overjoyed. Of course, the teleportation formation can do this. Let's find a suitable location first, I'll set up the array. Tang Zheng did not delay and immediately found a suitable location nearby. Following the same method, the true Qi flew out and set up a teleportation formation on the ground in the blink of an eye. The elder watched all of this without blinking. He shook his head and did not recognize the array formation. He could not help but mutter to himself, Lord Envoy is truly powerful. He actually knows such a mysterious array formation. My worries are completely unnecessary. Pa. Tang Zheng clapped his hands and called out, done. Let's wrap up. It's done. No one could tell what was going on and could not help but be puzzled. Chapter 990. A grand bonfire party welcomed Tang Zheng's arrival. The witch tribesmen sang and danced, and under the light of the fire, the witch tribesmen's faces were brimming with brilliant smiles. Tang Zheng sat at the top, smiling as he looked at the laughing clansmen. Many clansmen came to toast Tang Zheng, and he did not reject them. Little Zheng, how was the final exam last semester? Tang Dahai looked at him kindly and asked. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to answer, because he did not take the final exam at all. What's wrong? Nothing. Tang Zheng was weak, not daring to look at the old man. Tang Dahai understood Tang Zheng very well. Seeing his reaction, he immediately understood that there was definitely a problem. He asked worriedly, Little Zheng, did something happen? Tang Zheng opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say the word no. Since his grandfather had smelled it, he really could not say anything to lie. He took a deep breath and said, Grandfather, I haven't been to school anymore. You didn't go to school? Tang Dahai was so shocked that the cup in his hand fell on the table, and his expression changed greatly. How did you not go to school? Grandfather, don't be impatient. It's just a small accident. Seeing the old man's big reaction, Tang Zheng was shocked and hurriedly comforted him. Tang Dahai's face lost all color. He had always been proud that Tang Zheng was admitted to a good university. Although his development later exceeded his expectations, Tang Dahai still hoped that Tang Zheng could study hard. He himself was not very cultured, so perhaps he had placed more of his hopes on Tang Zheng. Now that he heard this bad news, his entire body was in a bad state, as if someone had poured a basin of ice water on him. Suddenly, Tang Dahai let out a long sigh. He was full of persuasion, but he did not say it out loud. He said dejectedly, Little Zheng, I know you have grown up and have your own ideas on many things. Many of my opinions are not suitable, but if you have already made up your mind, then I will support you. Tang Zheng's nose twitched. He had already made a decision in his heart. He said resolutely, Grandpa, I haven't finished yet. The school matter has been solved. The school is about to start. I will go back to school. Really? Tang Dahai's worry turned into joy, and his face glowed again. Tang Zheng nodded firmly. Of course. People have to learn when they're alive. I can't fall behind. This is what my grandfather taught me since I was young. I've always remembered it. Tang Dahai was comforted and laughed heartily. You're really my good grandson. Fang Shishir took a deep look at Tang Zheng. This decision was within her expectations, because she understood the relationship between this pair of grandfather and grandson. Tang Zheng would do anything for his grandfather. Whether Gu Guan truly wanted to return to school or to fulfill his grandfather's wishes, he would make this choice. Filial piety was the most important virtue of all. Fang Shishir was also a traditional girl at heart. She admired Tang Zheng for this very much. She couldn't help but smile. That night, Tang Jing drank a lot. In the end, he didn't use his martial arts to dissolve the alcohol, so he was drunk. In a daze, a soft body slipped into his arms. At first, she was Fang Shishir, then Yi Dingdang, then Lu Qingmei, Wu, Mu Hongyan. Each and every woman's charming face changed in front of his eyes, making him intoxicated. The salty sea breeze blew in. Tang Jing felt a trace of coolness. He opened his eyes in a daze and found that there was another person in his arms. Fang Shishir's lazy appearance was very charming. Fang Shishir felt his gaze and shyly opened her eyes. She smiled sweetly and leaned into his arms. She whispered, "Last night you were drunk. I helped you back. Then you did something bad. Look, this is the evidence." Following Fang Shishir's finger, Tang Jing saw that the room was a mess. Clothes were scattered all over. Fang Shishir lightly punched his chest a few times and said, "Last night you were like a wild beast. Look at the marks you left on my body." As he said this, he stretched out his arm. Sure enough, there were a few marks. Tang Jing gently stroked her arm and said with a pained heart, "I was drunk last night. I'm sorry, I hurt you." "Hee, but you're also very manly when you're drunk." Fang Shishir shyly lowered her head. "Is that so?" Tang Jing shook his head and asked with an evil smile, "Last night, did you see that I was drunk and then had bad intentions towards me? Did you do something bad to me? It was clearly you who did something bad to me. You still have the nerve to blame me." Fang Shishir pretended to be angry. The two of them played for a while and rolled together again. After a long time, they got up and washed up. After breakfast, the group of people arrived in front of the transmission array. There were already quite a few people gathered here. Everyone was filled with anticipation towards the Lord Envoy. "This is the transmission array. It will open up a passage between our island and the capital, and then we will be able to travel freely. This is extremely important to us. Everyone can concentrate on cultivating on the island, and also go to the bustling city to train. Combining theory and practice, this way, our strength will not be a castle in the air, but a solid foundation." After Tang Jing passionately explained for a while, everyone's emotions were stirred up, and their eyes burned with passion. Tang Jing took a deep breath. This was the first time he had set up a transmission array. This transmission array was different from the one in the Ghost Realm, because the transmission array in the Ghost Realm was very large and could teleport many people and resources. The one he had set up was a miniature version, and could teleport people and resources at once. This way, there would not be a huge commotion. After all, the other end was the capital. If there was too much commotion and it attracted the attention of others, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Jing channeled his power and pointed his finger into the air. So, the innate chi was injected into the array, and immediately, a faint light rose from the ground, but it was not dazzling, and under the illumination of the sun, it seemed almost insignificant. Yesterday, Tang Jing had asked the elders to select a group of Witch Clan people, and he wanted to bring them back to the capital. This group of people were extremely excited, and their eyes lit up as they eagerly watched this scene. Everyone, walk to the center of the array and stand there. Immediately, these people carefully walked to the center of the array. Tang Dahai and Fang Shishir were no exception, they all stood in the center of the array. Tang Jing turned and said to the elder, "Elder, I have already told you the trick to activating the array. If you have any problems, you can come to the capital to find me through the array." "Yes, Lord Envoy, this old one understands. I wish Lord Envoy a safe journey." Everyone waved goodbye. Tang Jing walked into the array, his power vibrating, completely activating the teleportation array. With a burst of violent fluctuations, a light flashed, and everyone disappeared. In the capital, in the backyard of the villa, the mana fluctuated violently. Empyrean Fairy jumped out of the house with a whoosh, looking at this scene in surprise. Whoosh! In the next second, a group of people appeared out of thin air in the backyard. Yi Dingdang and the others rushed over just in time to see this scene. All of them were dumbfounded. Everyone suddenly realized that Tang Zhang was mysterious before, so the array he set up had such a wonderful effect, it could make people appear out of thin air. What kind of array is this? Empyrean Fairy asked impatiently. Teleportation array. Tang Zhang said with a smile. He had already confirmed from Qi Yu and the inner demons that there was no teleportation array in the human world. This meant that it was unique to the ghost realm. No wonder even the Empyrean Fairy could not recognize this array. He did not know who invented this array, but it was really powerful. People and things thousands of miles away could be teleported in an instant. It was more convenient and faster than any current transportation. If such a teleportation array was set up during a war, the army would directly descend from the sky and pierce into the enemy's heart. Then there would be no need to fight at all. Empyrean Fairy recalled the 3 words teleportation array. She was sure that she had never heard of it before. She could not help but be secretly shocked. Could it be that he learned this from the ghost realm? Because he was sure that there was no such array in the human world. Master. Nana's voice interrupted the Empyrean Fairy's thoughts. Nana was like a little swallow jumping into the Empyrean Fairy's arms. The Empyrean Fairy's cold face finally revealed a trace of a smile. Master, Nana missed you so much. Nana has always remembered your teachings and has been working hard to cultivate. You are indeed a good disciple of Master. Empyrean Fairy stroked her delicate face and smiled from the bottom of her heart. Fang Shishir and the others were still thinking about the feeling just now. The feeling of being in a different place in an instant made them feel as if everything was still a dream. It was not real at all. Especially the Wu clan people who were looking around, they were full of curiosity about everything. Tang Zheng called the Wu clan people who came from afar. These Wu clan people who came early were already used to the life in the capital. He asked them to bring their people to settle down. Fortunately, they had already bought a lot of houses nearby, so they had a lot of space to live in. Only Tang Zheng's family was left in the backyard. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu hurriedly came over and supported Tang Dehai. They said with concern, "Old master, quickly go into the house and rest. The sun is very strong outside, it's very hot." Tang Dehai looked around and asked blankly, "Is this where little Zheng lives in the capital?" To him, this luxurious villa was still a bit dazzling. Deep down, he was still that simple old man. "Yes, this is your home. Old master, your home," Wu Junshan said as he held Tang Dehai's hand. Tang Zheng smiled as he watched the two of them being happy. He did not comment on Wu Junshan and Lan Yu's actions, but he had seen everything that this couple had done. Yi Dingdang and Fang Shishir reunited after a long time, holding hands and whispering to each other. No one knew what they were talking about, but from time to time, they would glance at Princess Anne, obviously talking about the little secrets between women. The family reunited and everyone happily gathered together. That night was the liveliest night in the villa. Although Tang Dehai was happy, he was secretly worried. Looking at the girls who were more beautiful than flowers, although he was old, he was not stupid. He guessed that they must be related to Tang Zheng in some way. His grandson was so lucky to be with so many fairy-like girls. He had to remind him not to be like the modern Shinshimi. Chapter 991. The news of his return to the capital spread like wildfire. The entrance was as busy as a marketplace, and Tang Zheng was busy receiving the Yen family and the Qin family. Qin Badian, this late-stage talent, had already pulled up the backbone of the large family. All the powers had seen this and also acknowledged his rise. When they heard about the Azure Dragon Palace, they were shocked to the core. Even Yen Padian was speechless for a long time, and other than shock, there was only shock in his eyes when he looked at Tang Zheng. The insufferably arrogant Azure Dragon Palace was destroyed just like that. Although the High Lord was nowhere to be found, the Azure Dragon Palace no longer had its former glory. Tang Zheng warned them to pay attention to the movements in the capital and investigate the whereabouts of the High Lord. He believed that the High Lord would not be a coward, as that was not his style. A single failure could not completely defeat him. Based on his intuition, Tang Jing believed that the High Lord was definitely accumulating power and waiting for the right time to give him a fatal blow. Therefore, Tang Jing warned himself not to be careless. At the end, Tang Jing's mind flashed with the chess club, his heart moved, and he asked, "Has Ji Wuxiang been in the capital recently?" Yan Padian muttered to himself, "I heard from Lu Yun that Ji Wuxiang has appeared in the capital during this period of time. Why, are you interested in him again? Didn't you not want to come into contact with him?" Although Ji Wuxiang has a huge amount of energy, he has always been more low-key in the capital and has not stirred up any trouble. Tang Zheng's mind flashed with Ji Wuxiang's face and the mysterious chess club, and said, "Ji Wuxiang is too mysterious. No one knows his background. This kind of mysterious person is a variable to us in the capital. I think we should find out his background." Yan Potion's mind shook, and said, "In the past, everyone thought that Ji Wuxiang was too mysterious and powerful, so no one dared to investigate his background. Now that your strength is getting stronger and stronger, and even the Azure Dragon Palace has become a defeated general, it is only right for you to probe Ji Wuxiang's background." The current Yan Padian was no longer afraid of the slightest thing. Instead, his confidence was high, and he believed that all difficulties and obstacles in front of Tang Zheng were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. Therefore, after hearing Tang Zheng's thoughts, Yan Padian raised his hands in agreement. Tang Zheng nodded and said, "If that's the case, then you should pay more attention to Ji Wuxiang and the movements of that Go Club. If there's any movement, you must inform me." "Understood." Yan Potion's eyes flickered with a bright light, his passion surging. After everyone left, Tang Zheng went to the company again. Although Mu Hongyan was still overseas, the business in China was doing well. Lin Hu, Fire Phoenix, and the others had also established a firm foothold in the business world. They had completely broken away from their initial social class. Their temperament and image had greatly changed, causing people to look at them in a new light. This group of old subordinates had a long chat with Tang Zheng, and the atmosphere was very warm. Now, they were all busy people. They had transformed into business elites and had become flying people, traveling all over the country. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng had given them a new lease on life, so they respected him from the bottom of their hearts. However, they were busy with work, so their cultivation fell further and further behind. However, seeing that they were enjoying themselves, Tang Zheng did not force them to cultivate. Everyone had their own lives, so there was no need to ask everyone to be the same. Tang Zheng had nothing to do, so he recuperated and focused on cultivating. Seeing that the time for school to start was getting closer and closer, Tang Zheng remembered his grandfather's earnest expectations and decided to agree to the school's request to return to the school. However, he was not willing to contact the school's leaders, so he planned to pass the message through Professor Qi Shaoan. Of course, this kind of thing could not be replaced by a phone call. He had to personally visit. This was the respect and etiquette that a student should have. Thus, he brought some gifts and went to Professor Qi's house alone. This was the first time he had come to visit. In the past, his interactions with Professor Qi had always been within the campus. Professor Qi's house was located in an old neighborhood. The neighborhood was lush with lush foliage, and the scenery was beautiful. Tang Zheng knocked on Professor Qi's door. After a while, Professor Qi opened the door and said, "Come in, it's too hot outside." "Oh, come on in. Why did you bring these things?" "Just some small things." Tang Zheng placed the gifts on the coffee table and looked up to size up the house. This was a 3-bedroom house. It was quaint, but unlike other houses, it lacked many daily necessities and had many shelves. The shelves were filled with antiques and all kinds of books. It was like a museum. "Professor Qi, your house is really a world of its own. It's an eye-opener." Tang Zheng praised. Qi Shaoan laughed. These things were the pride of his life. Without these antiques, his life would not be complete. Professor Qi was once married, but he was obsessed with archaeology and did not know how to be romantic. In the end, his wife ran away with someone else. Since then, he had devoted almost all of his time and life to archaeology. Although he was now a prominent figure in the archaeological world, he had always been alone. However, he did not feel lonely. With these antiques by his side, he felt that his life was full of meaning. These antiques were like family to him. You came at the right time. I told you last time that I had a collection of interesting objects. You might be interested, Qi Shaowen said excitedly. Tang Jing smiled and said, it must be something good if it can catch your eye, Professor Qi. Qi Shaowen laughed. I won't be modest in front of you. I accept your compliments. Come with me to the back room. Qi Shaowen entered the back room mysteriously. Tang Jing followed him in with a smile. The back room did not have as many antiques as the living room. The furnishings were simpler, but they exuded a sense of exquisiteness. There was a table in the middle of the room. On the table was a large object, but it was covered by a black cloth. It was impossible to see what was inside. Qi Shaowen blinked at Tang Jing like a child. He asked mysteriously, what do you think is inside? Tang Jing laughed involuntarily and shook his head. There are thousands of antiques in the world. I can't guess. Just take a guess, Qi Shaowen egged him on. Seeing his confidence, Tang Jing muttered to himself. It must be something extremely rare. Otherwise, it would not have piqued his interest. However, after thinking for a few seconds, he shook his head and admitted defeat. Professor Qi, I really can't guess. You should hurry up and reveal the mystery. Ha ha ha. It's not easy to baffle you. Take a good look. What is this? Qi Shaowen was in high spirits. He looked as if he had become 20 years younger. He was brimming with energy. He grabbed a corner of the black cloth and pulled it hard. The black cloth slid off, revealing the object's true appearance. There was a glass case covering an object. When Tang Jing's gaze fell on it, his eyes widened and he let out a cry of surprise. Seeing Tang Jing's reaction, even Professor Qi was shocked. He had never seen Tang Jing lose his composure like this before. He could not help but be curious. Could it be that he knew the origin of this object? Professor Qi himself had been researching it for a long time but still could not figure it out. How did Tang Jing know? Tang Jing could not help but be surprised. Inside the glass case was a skeleton. Tang Jing had seen ghosts and monsters before. Of course, a skeleton would not scare him. However, this was no ordinary skeleton. This skeleton was not a human. It was an animal. It had a long tail and 4 legs. It was a reptile. However, there was no other similar animal in this world. Tang Jing was not so knowledgeable. Therefore, he could not tell at a glance that this skeleton did not belong to any species in this world. The main reason he had such a big reaction was because when his gaze fell upon the skeleton, a figure immediately jumped out in his mind. It immediately overlapped with the skeleton, and it looked exactly the same. This figure was the extraterrestrial creature he had found in the crystal under the Swedish royal palace. Normally, a skeleton would not immediately make one think of an extraterrestrial creature. However, for some reason, Tang Jing only took one look at it and the figure jumped into his mind. It was so strange that he was caught off guard. He stared fixedly at the skeleton. His mind was in turmoil. Could it be that the extraterrestrial creature sealed in the crystal was not the only one in this world? Did it have other companions? What were these extraterrestrial creatures doing in this world? How were they related to Xianin? Tang Jing, what's wrong? Qi Shaowen asked worriedly when he saw Tang Jing's reaction. Tang Jing abruptly turned his head and stared straight at Qi Shaowen. Professor Qi, where did you find this skeleton? Is there anything special about this skeleton? Yes. Tang Jing nodded. I find it strange too. I've looked through all kinds of information and even consulted zoologists, but no one has ever seen the skeleton of this animal. It doesn't seem to belong to our world, Qi Shaowen mumbled to himself. Tang Jing said in a shocking voice, it's not a creature from our world to begin with. What? Qi Shaowen's eyes widened in disbelief. You're saying it's an extraterrestrial creature? You could say that. It does come from another world. How can you be so sure? Because I've seen its kind. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment, then told the truth. Qi Shaowen was shocked. His breathing quickened involuntarily. Humans had been searching for extraterrestrial creatures for a long time but had never found any evidence. Now, there was living proof right in front of him, and he was the one who discovered it. How could he not be shocked? If this news were to spread, it would cause a huge uproar and shock the world. Qi Shaowen took a few deep breaths and patted his chest. He was still very excited. His cheeks were red as he asked, "Where is its kind? Can I meet them?" "That's not a big deal. Professor Qi, can you tell me how you found this skeleton first?" Tang Zheng wanted to get to the bottom of it. It's actually a coincidence. I have a student who's in the business of salvaging ships. You know that there have been many shipwrecks in the sea since ancient times. Many treasures are buried in them. Some specialized exploration companies have organized professional teams to salvage and explore these shipwrecks. This skeleton was salvaged from the ruins of one of these shipwrecks. According to my student, the salvage work was very dangerous and a few people even lost their lives. Qi Shaowen began to explain. Chapter 992. After listening to Qi Shaowen's explanation, Tang Zheng began to understand the whole story. This skeleton was salvaged from the ruins of a shipwreck. The salvage operation had cost the company a lot of effort and even cost a few people. This skeleton was part of the salvage operation. The original plan was to throw it away, but the student decided to keep it. He knew that his mentor liked these weird things, so he gave it to him. Qi Shaowen didn't pay much attention to this skeleton at first. However, after going through a lot of information, he couldn't find anything about this skeleton. This piqued his interest. That's the whole story. Tang Zheng, where did you see its kind? Asked Qi Shaowen. It's a long story. Professor Qi, where is that senior brother now? I want to know more about the discovery of this skeleton. Didn't you say that a few people were killed? I want to know the details. Tang Zheng wasn't in a hurry to answer. Instead, he threw out these two questions. Qi Shaowen didn't mind. He thought for a while and said, "I'll call him and ask." He dialed the number and asked a few questions. His eyes lit up with surprise. He said to Tang Zheng, "He's still in the capital city. Can you arrange to meet him?" Asked Tang Zheng. "No problem. I'll ask him to come to the house. He'll be there soon." Qi Shaowen smiled. Since Tang Zheng was so interested in this skeleton, he wanted to know the answer as well. Tang Zheng circled around the skeleton again, carefully admiring every part of it, and secretly nodded his head. This skeleton had been soaked in the sea for who knows how many years, but it still did not have the slightest bit of damage. It could be seen how strong the skeleton was, and was definitely not an ordinary beast. This creature was probably equivalent to a monster in the Outland realm. He just didn't know how strong it was. If Xianin hadn't sealed herself, he might have been able to get the answer from her. But now, he could only rely on himself. After a while, there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door, he saw a bearded man. If Qi Shaowen hadn't told him his age, Tang Zheng would have thought that this man was in his 40s. In fact, he was only in his early 30s. Back then, he was also a very powerful student in the archaeology department. However, he could not stand the bureaucratic style of the official archaeology department and resigned in anger. Later, he was hired by his current employer with a high salary to participate in and preside over related underwater archaeological expeditions. His name was Wang Guanxuan, and his name was Peerless. It was clear that his parents had high expectations for him. "Teacher, why did you call me here? Could it be that you found out the origin of that skeleton?" Wang Guanxuan walked in, looked at Tang Zheng curiously, and then asked with full vigor. "Huh, smart. You guessed right. Chi Shaoan smiled and said, "Let me introduce you to someone first. He's your junior brother, Tang Zheng. He's also one of the best in our archaeology department. I dare say that no one in our school can compare to him." Wang Guanchuan was shocked. He understood his teacher's temperament very well. He rarely praised others like this. What ability did this junior brother have to deserve such praise from his teacher? He nodded at Tang Zheng with a smile and held out his hand. A great teacher produces a great student. Congratulations on finding another excellent student. Senior brother Wang, nice to meet you. Tang Zheng greeted politely. Wang Guanchuan laughed heartily and waved his hand. Don't call me senior brother. I'm a few years older than you. Just call me Brother Wang. Okay, Brother Wang. Thank you for coming in person this time. Oh, that's too formal. We're all teachers' students. It's a blessing that we've cultivated in our previous lives. It's fate that brought us together. Actually, I was going to visit teacher because I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know when I'll be back to visit teacher again. So soon? You've only been back for a few days and you're going back to work again? Chi Shaoan was surprised. Well, the salvage work is not over yet. I came back mainly to take care of the deceased colleagues. Now that everything has been settled, I can't delay. The others are waiting for me to go back and take charge of the overall situation. I don't believe that I can't bite this hard bone. Wang Guanchuan said energetically. Brother Wang, this time I asked you to come because of this skeleton. Tang Zheng said straightforwardly. Wang Guanchuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Tang Zheng in surprise. Oh, could it be that you're interested in this skeleton? That's why teacher specially asked me to come. Yes, I want to know the details of how you found this skeleton. This involves trade secrets and shouldn't be made public. But since you've asked, I'll tell you the truth. Wang Guanchuan said generously. Thank you, Brother Wang. I'm all ears. We spent a lot of manpower and money to determine the location of this shipwreck site. We have a lot of experience in salvaging shipwrecks. We've never failed before, so we're very confident. After we did a lot of preparation, we dived into the shipwreck site. It was hundreds of meters deep, and it was completely dark. It was a huge ship, like an ancient warship. In the end, we found decayed turrets and weapons on the ship, as well as many skeletons. It confirmed our guess that this was indeed an ancient warship. In fact, there shouldn't be many valuable things on an ordinary warship. But since we've come down and done so much preparation work, we naturally can't go back empty-handed. So we snuck into the warship. Although it's been a long time and has been corroded by the sea, we can still see the glory of the warship. In ancient times, this warship was definitely a giant warship, the king of all warships. We found a lot of traces of fighting inside the warship. The warship was seriously damaged. This level of fighting didn't seem like something that could be done by human strength. Oh, no, maybe those martial arts masters in wuxia movies could do it. We guessed that maybe it was attacked by the enemy and engaged in a life and death battle with the enemy, causing the warship to sink. We went deeper and deeper. In the end, we found a lot of gold, silver, and jewels in the bottom of the warship. This made us very shocked because we didn't have much hope. We just came here with the intention of visiting. Moreover, this kind of situation didn't make sense. How could there be a lot of gold, silver, and jewels on the warship? But this undoubtedly made a huge change in our exploration work. It turned out that this was a real treasure trove. It was bigger than all the other shipwrecks we've explored before. So, we tried to pick up these treasures. When we put a box of treasures on equipment and were about to lift it up, a huge shadow suddenly rushed out of the darkness. We were caught off guard, and after sacrificing a few of our colleagues, the rest of us fled in panic. Of course, we brought the chest of treasures back with us. Later on, everyone recalled that the black shadow might have been a monster or a spirit. In short, everyone was scared stiff, so they temporarily stopped exploring and returned to the shore to rest and recuperate. We immediately began to study the box of treasures. But, we found that there was a skeleton in the box. It took up almost half of the space, but there weren't many treasures. Everyone studied this skeleton for a long time, but they couldn't find anything. This kind of skeleton isn't valuable to our company, so I took it and gave it to my teacher as a research material. After listening to this, Tang Jing fell into deep thought. There were too many suspicious points about the sunken warship. The key point was, how could a creature from outer space be in the treasure chest of the warship? What was going on? Were there any other skeletons in the remaining treasure chests? Could there be more than one or two of these creatures from outer space? Could there be a large group of them? Tang Jing scratched his head but still couldn't figure it out. Seeing that he was silent, Wang Guanxuan and Qi Shaoan exchanged a glance. They didn't disturb him. Wang Guanxuan asked in a low voice, "Teacher, who is this junior brother? Why would he be interested in this skeleton? Is there a secret behind it?" Qi Shaoan shook his head. Tang Jing had too many secrets. As for his purpose, Qi Shaoan couldn't figure it out. "So," he said, "ask him yourself later. I've never seen him like this before. I'm also very confused." Hearing Qi Shaoan's words, Wang Guanxuan was shocked. He knew very well how powerful his teacher was. Even he couldn't figure out Tang Jing. This proved that Tang Jing was extraordinary. He muttered in his heart, "The new generation really excels the old. When did the Department of Archaeology produce such a genius?" Tang Jing finally raised his head. He had more questions in his heart. He couldn't ignore them. "So," he said, "Brother Wang, there's something I need to ask of you." "What is it?" Tang Jing muttered to himself, "This time, I want to go with you on your expedition. Is it okay if I don't?" "Well..." Wang Guanxuan hesitated. This was related to the company's secrets. He couldn't make the decision at the moment. "Guanxuan, after listening to your description, I realize that this expedition is very unusual. Someone even died. What if someone else dies this time? You might even be in danger. So, let me remind you, bringing Tang Jing with you is definitely beneficial for you," Qi Shaoan advised. Hearing his words, Wang Guanxuan said awkwardly, "Teacher, I can't make the decision. I have to ask the boss for instructions." Seeing that he was so cautious, Tang Jing guessed that he wouldn't even tell him the location of the shipwreck. This time, he had no choice but to cooperate with them. "So," he said, "no problem. You can report to your boss that I'm sponsoring this expedition for free." "For free?" Wang Guanxuan was shocked. Undersea exploration was an activity that burned money. Just the submarine alone was a huge investment. Ordinary rich people couldn't afford this kind of activity. The most important thing was that this kind of exploration was more likely to be fruitless. It took months or even years to determine the location of a real shipwreck. During this time, they had to burn money. Of course, they were very welcome to sponsorships. Of course, free sponsorships were rare. So, after hearing Tang Jing's words, Wang Guanxuan was even more confused. He couldn't figure out what Tang Jing was thinking. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.